protesters, many of them janitorial and maintenance workers who threw down their usual brooms and mops to carry signs and banners.
This is a very special day, and it's a day that's worthwhile for the protesters to be out here. We just want to ensure on our part that they're able to protest and demonstrate, get their point across, but also so that we can continue business as usual at the airport.
But 50 years later, workers say, King's dream of equality for all is still only a dream.
50 years ago, he was fighting for the civil rights, and we're out here now and we're still fighting for rights.
I get paid a little more than $10 an hour, and I'm a student, and that's enough for me, but if I had a family, that probably wouldn't be enough.
A day of remembrance in the hope of reviving a 50-year-old dream that has yet to be fulfilled for many. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
Workers around the city held their own anniversary marches, calling for, among other things, a better living wage. Now, when you say Hollywood, you probably think of bright lights and movie stars, right? Well, east of Hollywood, there's another neighborhood brimming with diversity and an increasingly younger demographic. They voiced their concerns at a recent community walk hosted by Mitch O'Farrell. Gil Reyes reports.
Councilman Mitch O'Farrell goes door to door.
Jose, Mitch. Pleasure. My pleasure. Okay, Jose.
Speaking to residents in Virgil Village, a section of East Hollywood.
I like asking questions for the constituents in terms of what their concerns are, what their ideas are.
A Spanish translator comes along. That's because over 60% of residents in this working class neighborhood are of Latino descent. East Hollywood is also home to Little Armenia and Thai Town.
Hello.
On this day, many people don't answer the door. The councilman, wanting to reach out, leaves behind flyers with information on how to reach his office.
They'll get it when they get home.
Much of the neighborhood's concerns can be found online. People worried about car break-ins, home burglaries, lack of parking, and pollution. The councilman says he wants to hear opinions on how to fix these problems face-to-face.
We just moved in. Yes. Oh, welcome. Welcome. Where did you move in from?
Sherman Oaks.
All right.
The latest census data shows the number of residents under 34 years old is among the highest in LA County. The councilman acknowledges them and new businesses that have popped up in the area, like Vinny's Barber Shop. It's been around 2 years in East Hollywood, and Cafecito Organico, about 3 years and going strong, just like their coffee.
The best coffee in town, bar none.
Time to go door to door again, maybe to your door next time. Councilman O'Farrell takes part in the neighborhood walks once a month. In East Hollywood, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
One of the state's longest-running environmental disputes has finally been settled. As Anita Bennett reports, the LADWP approved a deal to restore polluted streams in the Mono Basin.
After decades of legal battles over Mono Lake, the LADWP has reached a landmark agreement with conservation groups. The deal was announced outside DWP headquarters. It's meant to repair environmental damage caused by diverting water from 4 streams around the lake to DWP customers.
There's several creeks that the city has diverted to the city of Los Angeles from the Mono Basin, and originally those diversions caused damage to the habitats in the streams.
The settlement followed a lawsuit filed by the nonprofit Mono Lake Committee and other groups.
This decision today, an agreement, represents a real milestone in implementation of critical measures to restore the fisheries and 19 miles of streams up in the Mono Basin.
As part of the deal, the DWP agreed to build a $15 million adjustable gate at Grant Dam to promote healthy trout populations, and it will fund future scientific studies of the Mono Basin.
It's a win-win. It provides a lot of legal assurances and environmental assurances that both sides have been looking for.
The settlement will also allow the city to continue to tap into the Mono Basin. I'm Anita Bennett for LA This Week.
The agreement is now headed to the State Water Resources Control Board for final approval. A plan to green the LA River gains new steam with a rally and a vote in City Council. Anna Marcos has the story.
the future. There's the big city, but this is the river where it all started.
That LA River, where it all started, on whose riverbanks the City of Angels was born, saw its waterway paved with concrete in the 30s by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as a means to control flooding. But the concrete channel could soon make way for riverbanks again. City leaders held this rally in support of Alternative 20, the most comprehensive option in a study done by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that explores ways to revitalize the river.
Today is a rally in support of Alternative 20 of the Army Corps of Engineers Arbor Study. And what it will do is start to take out the concrete, restore habitat, and create vast parklands ultimately for the city of Los Angeles.
City leaders have also passed a resolution in City Council supporting the alternative.
This is the first time the city of LA is speaking with one voice, saying this is the alternative we want. This is the one that will restore the riparian habitat as never before.
City and state officials are lobbying Capitol Hill and the president and asking for $1 billion to begin the revitalization.
We have big plans that will require big resources from Washington, but more importantly, they're going to require a big effort, a united effort on all the representatives here.
Washington needs to hear from you. They need to know how strongly you feel about this change. There are different alternatives. They'll be coming out, we understand, with about 4 alternatives. And so it's important that you input. It's important that you give your feedback.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers will release the results of their study on September 20th, but it could be months or even years before groundbreaking on river revitalization begins. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
Alternative 20, the plan city leaders support, would cover a total of 6 different revitalization projects on the LA River. For more information, visit www.lariver.org. A neglected water drain in Harbor City is getting a much-needed facelift. Officials hope the cleanup will transform the area in more ways than one. This backhoe is starting work on a new project to transform the Wilmington Drain in Harbor City. The Wilmington Drain streams urban runoff and stormwater to Machado Lake and to the Los Angeles Harbor. Over the years, it has become polluted, but now, thanks to the Proposition O Clean Water Bond, the area is getting a major cleanup.
It's going to be a chain of events that's going to ultimately improve the quality of life for the environment, for the residents, for the city of Los Angeles, and put people back to visit Machado Lake.
Officials gathered recently for the groundbreaking ceremony. They say that the $120 million project will help protect the environment, the existing habitat, and will also revitalize Machado Lake.
With the Propo funds, the project here before you is going to be able to ultimately complete Machado Lake revitalization.
Officials are also building paths of recreation areas around the banks and surrounding areas.
It's going to be more than just a flood control channel. It's going to be a multi-benefit place where people will be able to come and enjoy.
Community members say it's been a long time coming, and they look forward to spending time outdoors.
They'll be able to come here, and their children, they'll be able to walk the path, they'll be able to see wildlife in its natural habitat. I mean, it's just such a wonderful thing.
The project is expected to be completed in August of 2015.
Folks may say, why so long? Well, that's because every year between October and April, during the rainy season, we're not able to work in the channel.
I'm Yana Kay for LA This Week. Los Angeles City voters approved the Clean Water Bond in 2004, authorizing $500 million to clean up the environment. Positive news for the Port of LA. Work on a new mural ordinance moves forward, and the LAPD needs your help in solving a felony hit and run. All these stories this week on City Beat. The Port of LA's strong financial position was affirmed recently as Standard & Poor's assigned the port a AA long-term bond rating, the highest rating given to a port without taxing authority. S&P cited the port's continued strong business position, stable portfolio of assets, and excellent historical financial performance as factors contributing to its top rating. The port has maintained the AA rating with S&P since 1995. The Port of LA generates 830,000 regional jobs and $35 billion in annual wages and tax revenues. The Los Angeles City Council voted recently to lift a decade-long prohibition on murals attached to privately owned buildings in the city. The measure would restrict murals on private single-family residences, but the council requested a report on methods for allowing communities to opt in to the program and allow murals on homes. 21-year-old Ernesto Melendez lost his life on August 18th in a felony hit-and-run accident on Ventura Boulevard in Sherman Oaks. Police are offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the driver of this vehicle, a 2012 to 2013 gray Hyundai Tucson.
At approximately 1:45 in the morning, there was a traffic collision that happened on Ventura Boulevard just west of Kester. And it happened because there's this young couple went out to dinner. And as he's coming around to enter his vehicle, there was a valet attendant who was trying to help him into the vehicle. Simultaneously, a car, ultimately resulting to being the hit-and-run vehicle, impacted Ernesto Melendez.
Someone hit someone, someone killed someone, someone didn't stop. We're asking for the public's help on this.
I need justice for my brother. It's not fair that he lost his life this way.
He didn't even see the car coming. He never saw anything coming. He didn't deserve that. We're going to go to school. We're going to start Pierce this semester. He was supposed to come with me. Now that I started school, I just feel so weird. I'm going to do it for him, though. But please, anybody that has any information, please come forward.
Anyone with information about the crime is asked to call Valley Traffic Investigator Martinez at 818-644-8032. Oftentimes we hear stories about airplanes getting hit by birds, and it happens more times than you may realize. So aviation officials, with the help of a few Eagle Scouts, are doing all they can to minimize the impact of bird strikes.
So basically, the bird's sitting up here on a perch. You'll see the birds that are down below. He'll come down to get a closer look, and then the trap goes over the top.
Wildlife biologist Todd Pitlick demonstrates how this bird trap works. They're designed to protect various birds, such as red-tailed hawks and owls that fly above and around LAX.
The FAA requires that we have a wildlife program in place to mitigate any type of birds or other critters that could be out there in the airfield. So we have a contract with USDA, and Todd has been here several years to fulfill that contract to help us out with our program.
The Eagle Scouts are helping build the traps, which will be placed around LAX and other airports in the LA region.
They are used for the safe relocation of birds of prey that would otherwise be flying around in airspace and therefore pose a risk both to themselves and to aircraft.
Officials say bird strikes have caused major damage to airplanes and have cost the airlines millions of dollars. Experts say these bird traps will hopefully make a difference.
Most of the damage is superficial to the outside of the skin, and it's usually minor, but in some cases, as you remember with the Hudson River crash a few years ago, it'll take out both engines.
We're able to reduce the likelihood for those birds dying in a bird strike collision, and we're also reducing the likelihood of damages to aircraft and other secondary problems that could happen to passengers as a result.
I'm Yana Kay for LA This Week. According to statistics, wildlife strikes cost the aviation industry more than $625 million every year. Plans to renovate downtown's historic Pershing Square appear to be moving forward. A local design firm reveals a vision for the future after spending 1 year researching the area. Gil Reyes reports.
Here's what the future could bring: a cleaner, greener Pershing Square. Here's how the park looks today. Some say it's outdated.
We have too much concrete where people can't relax on grass, not enough pathways, not enough trees.
Councilman Jose Huizar has championed the possible renovation of what many consider an eyesore. Recently in downtown, he unveiled the Pershing Square Task Force, 21 local stakeholders now in charge of modernizing the park.
We have 50,000 residents in downtown LA now, and 10 years ago we only had 10,000. More people want parks now. We have a lot more businesses and restaurants that want their employees to go out and walk and have lunch and programming. And so the need for a town square in the middle of downtown Los Angeles is much higher now than when this park was redesigned in the 80s.
More than 13,000 people now live within a 5-minute walk of the park. The design firm Gensler has spent a year researching this and other factors like sun exposure, views from nearby streets, and proximity to retail. In a new online video, the firm reveals possible looks for an all-new town square and where it might be best to set up new businesses, sporting, and other special events at the park. Keep in mind, nothing is set in stone yet. Councilman Huizar says there is no timetable for completion of the project. His task force is also trying to balance the needs of the area's homeless population.
It costs us more in public dollars to leave them on the street. And I think that as people become more aware of that, we need to redirect resources to ensure we've got the right kinds of investments in permanent supportive housing.
A request for federal dollars might be in order to accommodate the homeless and build the Pershing Square of the future. In downtown LA, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
AEG agreed to allocate $700,000 to the project earlier this year. The LAPD needs your help in solving the brutal murder of Julie Souza on the streets of the Fashion District. Anita Bennett has more.
This busy pocket of downtown LA in the 200 block of East Olympic Boulevard is full of shoppers, tourists, and vendors by day. But police say on a night in 2010, it's where Julie Souza was found brutally murdered.
On December 12th, 2010, Julie Souza was found dead on the sidewalk in the Fashion District of Los Angeles. She was beaten, sexually assaulted, and strangled. She was 53 years old and was homeless at the time of her death.
3 years later, Souza's killer remains on the loose, though the LAPD is hoping a reward approved by the city council will lead to a break in the case.
This reward is for up to $50,000 for the information leading to the arrest and conviction of the suspect or suspects complicit in her death.
Souza was known to frequent the Fashion District near Santee Alley. Her lifeless body was found covered in a blanket near Olympic Boulevard. I'm Anita Bennett for LA This Week.
Anyone with information is urged to call the LAPD, or you can phone in an anonymous tip to Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. Music, dance, drumming, and a dose of the blues are all in store for you on this week's outdoor edition of Things to Do.
It's the last 2 weeks of Grand Park's out-of-office Thursday concerts. After a hard day's work, grab a picnic lunch and settle in for an evening of music. Take part in lawn games, enjoy the beer garden, and try out the food trucks. It's a great way to start the weekend early, and it continues for only 2 more weeks. The fun starts at 5:30 p.m. at Grand Park in downtown LA, 200 North Grand Avenue. For more information, check it out at grandparkla.org. On Friday evening, get moving with your fellow Angelinos at Dance Downtown at the Music Center Plaza. If you're a beginner, there are dance lessons, and food will be available for purchase. With beautiful summer weather, there's no better time to groove. Dance Downtown starts at 6:30 p.m. Friday at the Music Center Plaza in downtown LA, 135 North Grand Avenue. And remember, it's all free. On Saturday morning at 10 a.m., if you're in the mood to make music or reconnect with your primal soul, then join in and take part in Drum Downtown, a free event open to all. Drums and percussion instruments are provided. This week, journey through the wondrous drumming sensibilities of West Africa. Drum Downtown takes place in Grand Park at 200 North Grand Avenue. For more information, check out musiccenter.org. If you're feeling the blues, then there's no better time to head down to the Hollywood Bowl for the Blue Man Group, the international entertainment phenomenon, a unique blend of music, comedy, and theatrics, and a lot of blues. Blue Man Group plays on Friday and Saturday, September 6th and 7th, starting at 8 p.m. For tickets or more information, check out HollywoodBowl.com. If you're yearning for a life at sea or just wonder whatever happened to Moby Dick, the Edendale Branch Library in downtown LA has the solution. At noon on September 7th, the Premier Brass Quintet will bring Moby Dick alive with a free program of classical and seafaring music on the theme of Moby Dick, including classic sea shanties and other songs of the sea. It's all part of the library's month-long celebration of Moby Dick, with events happening all over the city. The Edendale Library is located at 2011 West Sunset Boulevard in downtown LA. For more information on this and other upcoming Moby Dick events, visit whateverhappenedtomobydick.org. On Saturday at 7:30 p.m. and Sunday at 3 p.m., travel to the city's Madrid Theater in Canoga Park to enjoy Mozart's The Magic Flute, as presented by the Center Stage Opera. Sung in German with English subtitles in the Madrid presentation, it premiered in 1791 and is the fourth most performed opera worldwide. The Madrid Theater is located at 21622 Sherman Way in Canoga Park. For more information, check out centerstage.org. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do.
Writer and LA resident Ray Bradbury once said that without libraries, we have no past and no future. Recently, city officials and the community got together at the city's oldest library to celebrate the legacy of the past and the promise of the future. Rich Samuels reports.
When the Vermont Square Library opened in 1913, only 320,000 people lived in Los Angeles. Nearby homes cost just $2,500. Cecil B. DeMille had just filmed his first Hollywood film. 100 years later, the library still stands as a monument to the promise of knowledge.
What we're really here to do today is to celebrate 100 years of service to this community, 100 years of young people coming through those doors, checking books out, coming to story time, enjoying the services of this safe space, this wonderful space in this community.
When this community was established, the Vermont community was established more than 100 years ago, one of the first things that the developers did, provide some space for a library. I think that was very forward-thinking, very progressive thinking at the day. And for 100 years, this library has nurtured our children, parents, grandparents, godparents, friends, neighbors, and really helping to create the kind of environment that's so important.
The Italian Renaissance-style building was built as part of a $38,000 grant from Andrew Carnegie to build 6 LA libraries, and was actually the first library the city owned.
Libraries mainly, though, have been oases for readers to find comfort in people, places, and things that are just like them, and for oases for people to find comfort in places, things beyond their wildest dreams. That is, to imagine.
From the Vermont Square Library in the 9th District, this is Rich Samuels for LA This Week.
The Vermont Square Library had only one interruption in service when it was seismically upgraded between 1990 and 1996. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of LA This Week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Yana Kay. We want to remind you that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next time for more of LA This Week.
brave troops and their families stand up for us.
For years, we've asked so much of so few.
Now we have a chance to serve these heroes.
To give time, offer comfort, or lend a hand.
To ease the burden on a military family.
Let's honor their service by volunteering ours.
My name is Eric.
My name is May.
We are in Chinatown.
You're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel.
Clean water means playing in green parks. There's more to Garvanza Park than meets the eye. Beneath my feet are big cisterns that collect water from the storm drain when it rains. These clean and capture the stormwater and use them for two things: water this park and recharge the groundwater. That way, we conserve potable water and keep our water sources alive. Oh, and we get a nice green park to enjoy too.
Good morning. Today is Wednesday, September 4th. I want to welcome each and every one of you to your Los Angeles City Council meeting. Mr. Clerk, I think we have one more than a quorum, but if you could please call the roll, we can get started.
Blumenfield, Bonham, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Huizar, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Wesson. 12 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
First order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Martinez moves, Labange seconds. Next.
Mr. President, items 1 through 18 are items for which public hearings have been held. Item 1 should be held on the desk until the Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee report has been circulated.
Okay. We'll hold that without objection. Do we have members' specials? Mr. Parks.
We have number 2 and 3 special, and also number 11 has an amending motion being
Okay, let's hold 2 and 3. And 11 for Mr. Parks. Mr. O'Farrell.
Mr. Chair, item 6, special, please.
6 for Mr. O'Farrell. Members, Mr. Fuentes.
If we can hold item 31, I've got a substitute motion.
Okay, we're not there yet, but I'll get that. Mr. Clerk, you hear that? So when we get to 19 through 32, we need to hold 31
yes,
for Mr. Fuentes. Okay, let's prepare. Mr. Labange just raced to his seat.
I'm not going to call him special, Mr. President, but following the passage, I just want to thank some departments for their action.
Well, why don't we pass it, and then you can thank them. All right, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
And, Mr. President, there's been a request to send item 5 forthwith.
Without objection, that'll be the order. Okay, now we move.
Mr. President, just so I don't call it special, I just want to thank the Engineering Bureau for the street failure on Wilton. I just had to do this here.
Go ahead.
And also for the tunnel closing for Los Feliz Elementary School at Hollywood in New Hampshire for their excellent work. And also with Mr. Huizar to start the process to study naming 5th and Main Street, John Parkinson Square in the Historic District for John Parkinson, the English immigrant who was not just the architect for this building, the Coliseum, Bullocks, Wilshire, Union Station, among 200 buildings in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Okay, Mr. Clerk, let's move to items 19 through 32. We will hold item 31 for Mr. Fuentes. It's my understanding that I would have to deem without objection that these items are now before us.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I've done that. Do we have Mr. Krikorian?
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I wanted to call number 28 special as well. I'm not sure if we had gotten to that yet or not.
Okay, let's go back to 28. And let's, and you know what, Mr. Krikorian, that's my fault. It was signaled on my paperwork and I did not do it. So let's vote on reconsideration.
Mr. President, we haven't voted on that matter yet, but we can certainly set 28 aside.
Okay, let's set 28 aside. So anyway, let's prepare to vote.
And perhaps, Mr. President, we do have cards on a number of those items.
And which items do we have cards on?
Those would be items 19, 25, 26, 27, 28, 31, and 32.
All right, let's prepare to vote on the...
Pardon me,
yes,
sir, I believe
right
Mr.
ahead.
Parks.
29 special.
29 special for Mr. Parks. Mr. Clerk, what were you saying? Mr. Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Can we vote on what's left, or is anything left?
There are a few, sir, yes.
Then let's deal with that few. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, now we'll move on. Mr. Clerk?
Yes, sir. That brings us to item 33. It's an item scheduled for closed session. Would you like to hold it on the desk?
Paul, did you have... Item 33, I believe.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. Item 33 has been heard by the Budget and Finance Committee. It is a straightforward resolution of a matter that, unless members have questions about, Budget and Finance recommends approval of the recommendations.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on that item.
And Mr. President, if I may read that into the record.
Of course you may.
Item 33, in the case entitled Anna Manuel versus City of Los Angeles, there's a recommendation for a stipulated award of 100% permanent disability payable at $490 per week. The permanent total disability cost is estimated to be $637,000.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on that item. Let's open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Next, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, that brings us to presentations.
All right. So, you know what, Mr. Labange, I'm going to ask you to just take one moment. And I will call on you second, because it's my understanding that Mr. Krikorian would like to do something special on. Are you ready to go? Okay, you're good with that? Okay, Mr. Labange, the floor is yours.
Before I make our formal presentation, Mr. President, I did want to recall that on this date, in 1781, 44 people walked 9 miles from the Mission San Gabriel to the banks of what would be the Los Angeles River. Today is Los Angeles' birthday of recognition. Mr. Huizar and his team were very helpful in having the holiday celebrated over Labor Day weekend. Mr. O'Farrell joined us at the El Pueblo. I want us all to remember the birthplace of Los Angeles today, the city of Los Angeles. Let's give Los Angeles a hand right now. Dr. Murphy, come up here. Come up here. And there's nothing like the City of Angels, because there's many angels in the City of Angels. And I'm here with some educators who made a big difference. Made a big difference in a middle school where they transformed the middle school. And with me this morning is Carlos Hernandez, Ken Murphy, the husband of Dr. Murphy right here. We have Dr. Murphy right here, who's so special there. We have Miss Malone right here. I want to say your first name correctly. Musetta Malone. Excuse me. She's the Southgate Middle School principal. Mr. Holly here is the Roybal School assistant principal. But I'm here to honor Dr. Kristen Murphy for her great work at King Middle School, my alma mater. Good job. Dr. Murphy, for over 4 years, transformed a school. Over 135 points AP advancement there. She's now the field director for LA Unified's area, having served as a principal at Thomas Starr King Middle School. And Thomas Starr King is located in the Hollywood area right on Fountain Avenue. She started her career in the LA Unified in 1995 with administrative teaching and experience that served many areas. She's been an impact person that has transformed the school, made the teachers, again, believe in their mission and their role. She also, during her 4-year term at the Thomas Starr King, expanded the gifted high ability arts and technology magnet, and also developed an environmental magnet, which is so key to us because it engages so closely with Griffith Park and LA River issues. She's been a champion in so many ways in implementing that environmental studies magnet. She created a renaissance in the community and parental involvement, which Mr. Fuentes is a champion as well in that effort there. That parental involvement led to forming the Friends of King, a nonprofit fundraising organization. Through that, they were able to buy needed supplies for the school and extend the educational hour. She designed a 21st century technology transformation plan, which included a one-to-one laptop program, which now is being implemented district-wide. She was way ahead of it. She got her degree, a bachelor's degree in writing seminars at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, Maryland, her master's degree at the University of Massachusetts in Boston, and finally locally here a doctorate at the great University of Southern California for K through 12 leadership. We wanted to honor you because all of a sudden what happens, and Ms. Martinez, you'll know as a former board member, Mr. Huizar knows, the school changes and people get reassigned. And Dr. Murphy got out of town our Los Angeles side. Now she's involved with the East Side area. Got out of the central Los Angeles side at King before we could thank her. And I had to thank her because my number one constituent, Mrs. LaBonge, is also on the Friends of King and very helpful with the school.
Thank you, Mrs. LaBonge.
You know, for that. Because as you would know, you can't do it without Fabian. I can't do it without Bridget as all. We have that team effort there. So Dr. Murphy, for great work that has influenced the lives of those who you supervise as teachers and inspired parents and teachers and got to the kids of King Middle School to where they elevated their scores. We want to congratulate you with this great commendation signed by everybody here in the city of Los Angeles. Dr. Murphy, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, this is a surprise,
Thank
I know.
you.
You want to say a few words?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I just want to say that, of course, no one person can come in and transform a school. And I had an amazing team at King Middle School. I had my assistant principals, Musetta and Mark Jolly. I had my magnet coordinator, Carlos Hernandez, who's a principal now as well. And all of the teachers and staff, the parents, my district administration, everyone was so supportive as we made these changes, and it made a huge difference to us. So I'd just like to thank Councilman LaBonge and his team. Mary Rodriguez and Bridget LaBonge were some of the first people to come visit me at King when I started in 2007 and asked me what they could do to help. And so I just appreciate the councilman's support and everyone here. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Carlos Hernandez, also his team. You know how they have coaching trees in the NFL?
Yes.
You're a great fan of the NFL. She has a great team. She has a great administrative tree where there's other coaches, other leaders in administration. Carlos Hernandez, is it Aragon? Aragon, just going to say a few words about this experience. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, as a first-year principal, I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to have worked with the very best and really have had one of the most awesome trainings that I could have had as a principal now. Dr. Murphy was just a principal who demanded the very best from not just the students and the parents and her administrative team, but really went out there and convinced parents that they needed to send their kids to the neighborhood public school, that the neighborhood public school was the best option for their students, and she never let up on that mission and demanded of all of us to really provide that kind of education. So I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to work with Dr. Murphy and to recognize her today for her outstanding leadership.
Well, thank you very much, Carlos. This is a great day. Thank you for recognizing Dr. Christian Murphy, LA Unified East Area Coordinator.
And of course, I couldn't have done any of that without my amazing husband, Ken. So
Let's give Ken, the man behind the woman. Behind every great woman is a great man. Sometimes.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's an honor.
Good job.
Let's give her another round of applause.
Thank you, Carl. Good job.
Okay, it's my understanding that Mr. Cedillo has a presentation. Would you like to begin, sir?
Mr. President, thank you, and thank you, colleagues, for this opportunity to honor a great friend of the city of Los Angeles, a man who, after 39 years and 5 months of service, is finally going to retire. He's going to retire from work, but he's not going to retire from his activities. He's a member of SEIU 721. We were very impressed with ourselves last week when we organized 10,000 pairs of socks, but this man has organized 100,000 pounds of food for the homeless and the hungry. He's an extraordinary leader. Let's applaud that. He's a great friend. He's transplanted from New York, a son of Irish, German, and Italian. Yes. And his brother was a priest, Franciscan priest, and came to Los Angeles about 1970. Has worked here. A great leader, a health educator for the County of Los Angeles, 39 years, 5 months, and an activist throughout the city, a pioneer, a member of the Lavender Caucus of 721, a leader on their governing board, and just a great Angelino, a dear friend. We're so happy that he's going to have more time to spend with us
in his volunteer activities so that he doesn't have to spend his time working. Harold, thank you for your service to the city and to the County of Los Angeles. Thank you. You've been a really great leader, and I'm very proud to have you be the first person that I recognize and honor for your service to the city. Please say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. It's a little bit overwhelming. It humbles me. In just a few quick words, I want to thank you, Councilman Gil Cedillo and the Los Angeles City Council. I'm honored to be presented with the certificate as I retire from the County of Los Angeles after 39 years of service, Department of Public Health. I've been very active in my union, SEIU 721, which also represents thousands of city employees. I've been actually on the executive board for quite a while. I've worked with Gil Cedillo and his staff for over 4 years during his service as Senator, Assemblyman, and now Council member. He shares my work of integrating SEIU 721 in the community with elected officials like him, as well as many other nonprofit organizations. Our headquarters is located in the Council District 1, representing Councilman Cedillo. We're working closely with him to improve Westlake, MacArthur Park, and the other Council District 1 communities by improving public safety, creating more jobs and economic development, cleaning up our neighborhoods with bulky items and graffiti, and supporting the arts and cultural programs. Even though I'm retiring, I will continue my work serving the underrepresented in Los Angeles County, and I want to thank everybody for this. I really appreciate it, Councilman Cedillo.
39 years. Thank you. Great leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Krikorian, are you ready as well? That'll be on item 28, I believe.
Members, Michael Bonomi was a 35-year-old young man, resident of Los Angeles, a web designer, a musician, a person who touched just so many lives around him, as you can see from the people that I have here standing with me today. And tragically, on August 17th, far too soon, Michael was taken from us in a tragic traffic accident on Ventura Boulevard. And in the blink of an eye, this promising young man and all of the dreams that he still had ahead of him were taken from him and his family and his friends and everyone who knew and loved him. But to compound that tragedy, the driver of the car that struck Michael, well, he was just doing the simple act of crossing a street. Crossing a street while enjoying Studio City on an evening out, crossing a street. The car that struck him and took his life was driven by somebody who made the decision to leave the scene, who made the decision not to stop and help Michael, not to call an ambulance, not to call police, but to speed off and leave Michael there on Ventura Boulevard, where he died. And I'm here today, as is Michael's family, his parents, his friends, to ask this council to offer a reward for information leading to the arrest of the person who was driving that car. We hear far too often about these situations, as you all know. Just recently, Mr. Labange was here on a reward motion for the death of Ernesto Melendez, who at just 22 died that very same night on that very same street in another hit-and-run accident. And it's just so important, I think, that the people of Los Angeles understand that accidents happen all the time. Tragic accidents happen all the time. But those tragic accidents become crimes when people leave the scene. So I ask you to join me in offering this reward. Hopefully there's someone out there who has information relating to this case who will come forward, leading to the arrest of the person who drove off, so that this family can finally have some small measure of justice and accountability for the person responsible for Michael's death. So I'd like to ask first Detective Bustos to come and join me and give a little bit more information about the incident, and then we'll hear also from Michael's mom. Detective.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian, Mr. President, honorable council members. Good morning. We are here because we are investigating this tragic hit-run fatal collision that occurred over at Fairway and Ventura Boulevard on August 17, Saturday evening at about 11:45 in the evening. We have information that a 2008 to 2010 Mercedes two-door, that's a CL type, was driving eastbound at a high rate of speed. That's when, tragically, Mr. Michael Bononi was crossing the street and he was struck. Regrettably, he lost his life there at the scene. The driver of the white Mercedes continued to drive without even slowing down to stop and comply with the law, which is to render aid, call 911, call the paramedics, call the police, provide his information. That did not happen. That driver chose to leave. We have examined physical evidence at the scene. We reached out to the community. Unfortunately, we ran out of leads, and that's why we are here asking for your support in approving this motion, that we feel that this reward will serve as an incentive for somebody to do the right thing and provide us the information, the lead that we need to locate that driver and that vehicle. So that's where we are in that investigation, and that's why we're here respectfully requesting for your help. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Michael's mom to speak now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Krikorian, and thank you, everybody, for listening to our plea. My name is Eve Bononomy, my husband, Robert, and we're here with many of our good friends and Michael's good friends. And our dear, beautiful son, Michael Bononomy, who was just 35 years old, was tragically killed and hit on August 17th, and we want you to know a little bit about him, to put Michael's name to a person, because he truly was a remarkable person. He was born and raised here in Los Angeles and was a respected advertising professional, an accomplished musician, and a very special friend to so many. We can't even count the number of friends that were at his memorial. We think maybe 300 people came to our little house, and it was just such a testament to him. He loved the Dodgers, he loved the Lakers, the farmers market, sunsets on the beach, and a barbecue with friends. Just the simple pleasures of life. He was a loving son and made it his mission to bring us joy. And he brought us more joy than you can ever imagine. He was kind and caring beyond anything. He had a great respect for others and for the earth he lived on. And he had no intolerance for injustice of any kind. He had a neighbor, a Vietnam veteran who had no family and very few resources, and his name was Reg. And when Reg became terminally ill and was admitted to the VA hospital alone and in pain, our son went to visit him in the hospital 4 or 5 nights a week because he didn't want Reg to die alone. And that's who Michael was. So we're asking for your help in finding the person who left our son to die alone and callously sped away. We're doing our best to find justice for Michael, and without knowing who would have done something so cruel, we'll never have closure. We ask you in Michael's name and in the name of all humanity, because what this person did was an affront to Michael's morals and indeed an affront to the human race. So if anyone knows anything, please come forward. We thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, members. Accidents happen. but it is intolerable in this city that we can allow someone to show this level of heartlessness and callousness and leave the scene of an accident and allow a young man like Michael to die without rendering aid. So I ask that you join me in approving this reward motion.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Krikorian, so you know as well, last week in public safety when we had the issue of hit and runs come up, we made a commitment and took a vote never to call them hit and run accidents in the city of Los Angeles ever again, because the second you flee, it's a crime. And so there's no justification for leaving. But I appreciate it. Thanks for bringing the family as well. We have one speaker card on this, but let me ask Mr. Walsh, since you have several speaker cards. Pass. Okay, great. Thank you very much, John. Appreciate it. With that, colleagues, no members are on the queue. We're going to go ahead and ask for an aye vote, ask for a unanimous vote on this. If we could open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Great. Thank you very much. We'll send that forthwith as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. And John, with that, we're going to go ahead and I appreciate that, John Walsh. You have several cards, and we'll call you up just to give you all your time at once as well, to make it efficient for you. With that, before we jump into that, we did have item 4 and 5 that perhaps were going to be for reconsideration of those commissioners were still in the room. Do we know if they left yet? 1, 2, both still here? So my understanding is somebody wanted to perhaps reconsider item 4 and 5 to allow those speakers. Okay, Mr. Bonin, yes. So, Mr. Bonin, is there a second for reconsideration? Yes, Mr. Blumenfield. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open the roll for reconsideration. Close the roll. And tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Great, thank you. So those two items are before us. We have no cards on either one of those items. Mr. Bonin?
Yes, Mr. President. I suggest that we take both of the items together. If we could just ask the two commissioner candidates to come to the table.
Great, thank you very much. Sergeant, if you can help them to the table. Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Welcome to the City Council. Thank you for your willingness to serve. If you could just introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about, introduce yourselves, tell my colleagues which commission you've been nominated to serve on, and tell us a little bit about your experience.
My name is Boris Gorbis. I was born in 1950 in the city of Odessa. I've been appointed by the mayor to the Board of Taxi Cab Commissioners. I am deeply touched and honored because it gives an opportunity for me to serve my city and my family. Today with me, I present my wife, Dr. Ida Gorbis, my father, Professor Zinovy Gorbis, who in 1970, when I told him that I want to leave, told me that I will disappear in the black hole of capitalism. Dad, I did not. Now, my sons, who were born in this city, Alexander and Andre, it gives me an opportunity to prove to them that in this world, action, determination, and passion rule. And I'm extremely grateful to the City Council because it gives an opportunity for me to put my skills, my knowledge, my interests, in the service of a remarkable group of people who have the courage and the vision, I hope, to transform the transportation picture of this city. Thank you,
sir.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is John Lai, and I've been appointed to the Transportation Commission. It is an honor to be here today. My father was an MTA mechanic for 20 years, so I grew up on a lot of the city's buses and also spent a lot of my childhood in subways. And so I think that the Transportation Commission is a natural link. I look forward to serving and to doing my public service. I'm honored to have my wife, Leanne Lai, here, and we live in City Council District 2 in Valley Village. And I can't wait to delve into some of the issues and the challenges that are facing this city. And I look forward to working with my fellow commissioners and also with the Transportation Committee and also with the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, the Transportation Committee met with both of these candidates last week and interviewed them. Mr. Lai agreed to participate this year in the bike and pedestrian count, which we're having later this month. And Mr. Gorbis addressed one of our key concerns with the Taxi Cab Commission is that over the years they've actually had problems reaching a quorum because some of the members weren't able to make it, and he reaffirmed his commitment to make sure that he would have the attendance that would let the meetings go forward and the Commission could do its business. So the Transportation Commission Committee recommends both of these candidates for approval.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know one of the two candidates well, and Mr. Boris Gorbis, who I know is a Jewish community leader, a leader in the Russian community, a founder of a very notable museum, someone who I know is responsible, and if there was ever anyone I was sure would show up and do the work and has the expertise to do it, it's Mr. Gorbis. So I give him my strongest recommendation, and I welcome Mr. Lai to this activity as well, and thank you for offering your service.
Great. Thank you very much. Seeing no other members on the queue, we'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, we'll tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
And
it.
Mr. President,
Mr.
again,
Bonin.
there was a
Thank you,
recommendation to send
Councilman
item 5 forthwith.
Forthwith. That'll be the order without objection then. And where does that take us?
That brings us to item number 1. It was held special for a Personnel Committee report that has now been circulated and is before Council for consideration.
Thank you very much. Mr. Koretz, you called item 1.
Yes, I wanted to encourage the Council to approve Mr. David Zaft's appointment to the Board of Animal Services Commissioners. He is not only a very capable attorney, but he's done extensive pro bono work on animal welfare issues, including issues relating to factory farming, injured chimpanzees, making sure that animals that were injured, that their owners are appropriately reimbursed for costs, and other issues as well. I expect him to be a great appointee and a very active member of this commission.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Council Member Koretz and the honorable council members. I am very humbled and about this appointment. I'm very eager to join the commission and to support and participate with the director and the department in making progress on bringing down the number of animals that die in our city shelters and transforming the shelter system into the first place that people think about when the citizens of this great city decide they want to give an animal a home and their family a dog or a cat or another pet. Again, thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions or any of the council members may have.
Great, thank you very much, and I'm sure they'll have many for you. There's none currently in the queue, but they'll know where to reach you as well. We appreciate it. So we'll go ahead and open the roll.
Thank you.
Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
You're approved, Commissioner. Thank you. Congratulations. Appreciate it. Mr. Parks, did you wish to take number 2 and 3 together?
Yes, please.
That's 2 and 3.
We have Ms. Mack and Mr. Medina come to the table. Colleagues, the Education Neighborhood Committee has interviewed both of these candidates Ms. Mack is a reappointment, her second term as a board member. Mr. Medina, a former member of neighborhood councils, primarily in the Harbor area, is a new member. And let me start off, Ms. Mack, and you can give us a bit about your background and what your view as it relates to your future 4 years on this commission.
Good morning, council members. It's such an honor to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to come before your vote and to be reappointed to the commission. 10 years ago, I founded an organization called LA Commons, and really that organization is based on my love of Los Angeles and the desire to connect people to the city using art and culture as a way to do that. We have, as an example, coming up on October 20th, our day Found LA, where we're doing a day of free tours that community members share with other Los Angelinos to explore the Los Angeles River. And so we're really excited about that day, and I hope I can call on all of you to be involved in that. And that integrates very nicely with my role on the commission and my passion for civic engagement and, you know, just getting people involved in our wonderful city and everything and everybody, connected to everybody that makes this city the great place that it is. The reappointment provides me with the opportunity to continue the work that we've done over the past 4 years that I've been on the commission. And I think notably, really, you know, this was started 10 years ago as a pilot. And in the last year, there's been a reevaluation of the foundational documents, really looking at how to make the system stronger, how to build the capacity of the councils, which I think is one of the biggest issues, and to help them really engage people broadly in the work of neighborhood councils and the work of the city. The other thing that I'm very proud of is our Empower LA Awards, which, you know, on the surface could sound like fluff, but really what we're doing is holding up best practices, like, you know, the pothole lottery that now serves as a model developed by one of the neighborhood councils in the Valley. And so really, I think that neighborhood councils have the potential to really continue to make a difference in the city, and I'm so proud to be able to be part of that process and to partner with all of you in realizing that potential for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Medina.
First of all, good morning, Mr. President, council members. My name is Victor Medina, and first of all, I'm honored and humbled to be appointed for this committee. My main things and the reasons why I want to join is I want to serve the city, the great city of Los Angeles, as well as my residents of these communities that I pretty much work and represent. What I bring to this is my skills and my knowledge, my civil engagement to this committee. One of my biggest things and one of the things that I want to do is, like my colleague said, is I want to improve the attendance and engagement of the communities within the neighborhood council. That's my big things, as well as the youth. I mean, I believe the youth should be letting their voice be listened to, and not only that, addressing them and as well as participating and getting them off the street. So I really am humble and I'm honored if I'm looking for your vote today. So thank you.
Thank you very much for both being here and putting yourself up for this these appointments. And colleagues, I'd ask for an aye vote on both commissioners.
Great. Thank you very much. We do have one speaker, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Park, for leading this. I want to, Ms. Mack, thank you for continuing to serve on the commission. And I rise, colleagues, to recognize my dear friend and Victor Medina, who I've known for many, many years in my days with the Los Angeles Police Department. Victor, any opportunity he can to raise his hand and volunteer in his community. He is there, he's vocal, he's visible. I'm just so proud of you, Victor. We love you. And you are the heart and soul of Harbor Gateway. And we have not had a Harbor Gateway commissioner in quite a while. I want to recognize and thank Mayor Garcetti for continuing to empower you and be the voice on this board. And I just look forward to continuing to work with you at this level. And I know I want to recognize some of our key stakeholders here from Harbor Gateway. Janet Showers here, Jane Takubo, the members of the Gang Alternative Program, board members, Mr. Doug Seamarks here, who shower you with their support and love. Congratulations to both commissioners. We look forward to working with you.
Great mentors I have back there. So thank you, my mentors.
Thank you very much. Mr. Labange.
I thank Mr. Medina, too, as well for that. You know, I hope one day there's the San Pedro Freeway. I don't want to pick on Harbor Gateway, but I got to throw that out. But Ms. Mack, what you said is so inspirational on our city's birthday. The love of the city, the art, the culture, the history, bringing people to many sites. I just think it's just wonderful, both of these commissioners. I thank Mayor Garcetti for selecting you and a reappointment, etc. The neighborhood movement is so important. And if they just focus on what they want and try not to get caught up in the bureaucracy, focus on what they want in their neighborhoods and try to achieve that and have not such a long agenda so that you can see the achievements and then you'll feel that the city does listen. I find more important, this is surprising now, city departments are listening more and more to our neighborhood councils, which is a good plus. I think also an achievement that we had through the Los Angeles Police Department and their CPABs, their Community Police Advisory programs, they have done more in having people speak and connect and communicate with those who serve them. So I just want to thank you both. But Ms. Mack, I especially want to thank you for the nice thing here on our city's birthday. Very special.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. And with that, no other speakers are on the queue. We'll go ahead and open the roll. Close the roll. And tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Congratulations, both of you. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and go over to item 6, if we can. That's an ordinance. I believe we have one speaker. Mr. O'Farrell would like to speak on item 6. Public hearings have already been held.
Right. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 6 is where the city attorney has prepared an ordinance that deletes the Los Angeles Municipal Code, Section 42, that provides an exemption for sightseeing tour operations from the prohibition of on-street soliciting of goods for services. I want to thank my predecessor, now Mayor Eric Garcetti, and my colleague Tom Labange for introducing this motion a year ago. This is an issue that I worked on while on staff for many years, and I know that we have some representatives from Hollywood. I'd like to recognize Carrie Morrison from the Business Improvement District and Nicole Shahinian from the Chamber of Commerce, and I think we might have a few tour bus operators out there somewhere too. But what this does, folks, is for years on Hollywood Boulevard, it's kind of been the Wild West of tour sales. And what this will do, it will bring into compliance and regulate where these sales can take place. Hollywood deserves to be the world-class destination that it is destined to become. And this is one step that will help provide a quality experience for people who come from all over the United States and all over the world to visit Hollywood and have a quality experience. So I urge my colleagues to support this new ordinance. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Labange.
Thank Mitch O'Farrell. Mitch, right out of the start here, you've made an impact and a difference. It's so important because we don't realize on a boulevard where people walk, they want to look at the Walk of Fame, the great work that the Hollywood Business Improvement District has done, Ms. Morrison, and the Chamber of Commerce always on that. Johnny Grant is looking down at you, Mitch, saying that's the way to go, doing the right thing, because we don't want to have that commerce on the sidewalk that impedes people or they feel they're getting hustled. I just wanted to thank you, Mitch, right out of the gun, and all your team is doing a great job in Hollywood. I call for an aye vote. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And seeing no other speakers on the queue, we'll open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, with that, let's go ahead and forthwith, without objection, Mr. Labange. Let's go ahead and take some of the speaker cards from John Walsh and Arnold Sachs, if you both want to come on up. Arnold's, or whoever comes up first.
Yeah. After this.
John, how are you? We're going to go ahead and we'll take all your cards, 33, 31, 19, and 27. So we'll create some efficiencies for you.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. After I'm finished, turn off the TV. there's nothing more to be said. Number 19 is concerns REAP. And as I've said, they're doing some good work here at City Council on policing landlords. Not that the average landlord is not a crook or a criminal. Number 25, which I signed up for, concerns release from criminal custody. Prohibit an enforcement official from detaining an individual on the basis of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We're 100% in favor of that. Let the federal government enforce their laws. You enforce your laws. I don't think anyone walking the street who hasn't committed a crime, who is not under suspicion of committing a crime, should be asked for their ID. Remember, I'm not some right-wing crazy up here. I'm farther to the left of you and farther to the right of you and totally in the middle of the road. Number 27 I signed up for. This concerns KR Hollywood and an agreement for $400,000, a development agreement. This is giving the Columbia Square project $400,000 gift of public funds. As you know, CBS Columbia Square has been sitting there for what, 6 or 7 years? Empty? 8 or 9 years? Empty? It has passed in real estate speculation from one hand to the other. Remember, the only way you can make money in Hollywood in real estate is speculation. The minute you build something, you will lose money. Go look at that eyesore right now. It's gang infested. It used to have the greatest stars in Hollywood. Jack Benny, everybody was at Columbia Square, and now it's a piece of garbage. And there isn't even the money to tear it down. Because tearing down Columbia Square, which they will do, will cost somewhere between $5 and $6 million just to demolish it. Number 28, again, I don't get up here. I signed up for 28. I don't get up here when there are relatives of the deceased here. But I'm telling you that we have, per square mile, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure Mr. Krikorian will correct me, because he always corrects me when I'm wrong, once a year. We have, per square mile, more liquor licenses than any city in America. And is there any wonder that we also lead the United States in hit and runs per square mile? Because the man who ran down that young man, the person who ran down that man on Ventura Boulevard must be drunk. I'm telling you right now, he probably or she probably doesn't even remember hitting that person because they're so drunk because of convenience and necessity. And I'm still waiting for
we've already passed that particular item, though.
Person to vote against a liquor license. In other words, the blood is on your hands. I wouldn't have said that when they were here. And number 31, that'll finish it for this meeting, concerns the El Grito de Dolores celebration. We're 100% in favor of that. If you want to find out anything more about what's happening, if you want an alternate history of what's happening in Los Angeles, all you have to do is go to HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential. I said it all in 4 minutes.
Whoa.
I don't need 5 minutes.
Whoa.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Walsh. Arnold Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. By the way, you're not putting the items up that we signed up for on the screen, so how would the public actually know which items we signed up for, Mr.
26,
President?
32, 31, and 19.
I understand that, but they're not up on the screen.
Take your time. Start this time, please. Thank you very much.
They did start my time.
Yes.
Again, I say they're not up on the screen for the public's information.
19, 26, 32, and 31.
Hike.
You fill out the cards.
That could be a play call on Tom LaBonge's football team, but that's a different story. Anyway, I held item number 19. It's also REAP. Back on June 5th, 2013, the Los Angeles City Council, I'm reading from a motion, by the way, that was presented by Eric Garcetti, which added a proactive city enforcement provision. Under the revisions, the Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety will inspect
all vacant single and multifamily properties. With the addition of Los Angeles Housing Department, it has to deal with REAP. And this is regarding foreclosed properties. So when are you going to have on your agenda the housing from the foreclosed property registry that you put the law together for $1,000 a day? When does that appear? When do you take action on this motion that the now mayor of the city presented back in June 28, 2013? That being said, I held item 26. It's DWP property. And DWP property, remember, doesn't pay property tax. So at least it's going to a nonprofit use. But it would really be helpful for the city as a whole. Maybe the public might be interested to know, based especially on the county's Clean Water, Clean Beaches Act, how many parcels DWP actually has.
Well, here, give me those.
And remember, Department of Water is different from Department of Power. They are separate and not necessarily equal.
That's why we got
Although the Department of Power makes a transfer to the city, the Department of Water makes a transfer to the city, the Department of Power doesn't. And just to let you know, as far as how powerful the Department of Power is, the county just used 14 acres of 50 acres for the Disney new studios up in Santa Clarita. That's 50 acres of Department of High Transmission right-of-way. So that would belong to the Department of Power, which again is not paying property taxes, not making a transfer to the city. You ought to find out about that. It is, after all, your money. I held item 32 as a Quimby fee item. Quimby fees, the map, but there's no designation for what the park would be. The park funding would be used for. Again, Park Poor LA, and I don't mean Councilman Parks, thank God, but Park Poor LA in some of the areas with Quimby fees. You have the Grand Park right here. You have the park by the new LAPD headquarters that can't get funds from the Quimby fees from Grand Avenue Park. And why is that? Why does the public have to contribute money when you have Quimby fees used here for the Grand Avenue Park that couldn't be used for the new LAPD headquarters? And I also held item 31, and just more or less for the funding. It starts out that council districts, $5,000 from 5 council districts from the portion of their cultural affairs funds. But then it mentions council civic funds. Well, council civic funds is the council as a whole. Council district funds are individual councils. And we know that individual councils get revenue from sources that don't come into the council. So, A, the balance in the council district funds, again for public perception, and B, the source of revenue or the balance for the council civic funds, because those could be used for citywide celebrations, 4th of July, Christmas celebrations. Those are citywide and open to the city. But council civic funds, council district funds, individual councils. One person gets pipeline revenue. Doesn't mean that it'll go to another council district. They'll get pipeline revenue. One person gets bus bench revenue. Doesn't mean another council district gets bus bench revenue. One person gets landfill amenity funds. Doesn't mean all the other council districts get amenity funds. It's your money, public.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Juan, we're going to take you next, and we'll take you on items 32, 27, and 19.
I don't...
19, 27, and 32.
I don't understand why he talked so long. Nobody was listening.
What was that?
Mr. Oh, I see what you're saying. Item 32. What was it? I wasn't listening either. Anyway, all those items, I agree with Mr. Welch. He's my mentor. I'm not gay, but he is. But that has nothing to do.
If you could stick with the agenda items, please. It's disrupting the meeting if you're not on the agenda.
Okay, what is item 32? I can't see it.
Yeah, the agendas are posted.
Huh? Because I didn't have an agenda at the time.
If you're not prepared to speak on any of these items, we can give your time.
No, I want things to change drastically.
Okay. Are you going to speak to any of the agenda items?
Yes, I'm here to speak about creating changes that are meaningful to everybody. Those crazy socks that you give to people, they're useless.
That's not on the agenda. You've got to speak to the agenda items. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, those items before us are 19, 26, 27, 31, and 32. We have no speakers on the queue on any of those items. Again, 19, 26, 27, 31, and 32.
Excuse me, sir. 31 has a substitute motion.
Okay, has that been circulated?
Yes, sir, it has. 31A.
31A. Is before
excuse me, it is. Perhaps you'd like to take that out of the group and
we can take
vote
that
on
out
it
of the group
separately.
for now. That's fine. So it'll be 19, 26, 27, and 32. In a moment. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Great, thank you very much. That could take us to 31A, if that's ready.
Yes, sir, and that was called special for Councilmember Fuentes.
Okay, Mr. Fuentes, did you want to speak on that or just go ahead and vote with your amending motion?
Just a vote, encourage an aye vote on the amending motion.
Okay, so 31A.
And excuse me, sir, it's not an amending motion, it's a substitute motion, so Council should first vote on whether to substitute or not.
Correct. So the vote is before us to substitute. We'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Great, excellent. Thank you very much. With that, Mr. Huizar.
26 forthwith, please.
26 without objection, forthwith.
Thank you.
Okay, so 31A is before us. Seeing no speakers on the queue, we'll open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Great, thank you very much. Where does that take us?
Mr. President, that brings us to item number 11, called Special for Councilmember Parks. Amending motion 11A has been distributed and is now also before Council for its consideration.
Thank you. We'll vote to consider the amending motion.
Yeah, it's just a technical amendment.
Okay. So that'll be before us then. We'll open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Great, thank you very much. And now, do we need to vote on that, or is that just the amending motion?
No, sir, that's done.
And we'll send that forthwith without objection per Mr. Parks as well. And where does that take us?
Mr. President, that brings us to item 25, called Special for Councilmember Cedillo.
Okay, we're going to hold that on the floor for a moment. I believe we can take, adjourn the regular meeting and go to the special. Recess the, I'm sorry, not adjourn. Recess the regular meeting, and we will open the special meeting.
Very good, sir. Blumenfield, Bottom, Buscaino, Cedillo, Engler, Fuentes, Huizar, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Wesson, 50 members present, and a quorum, Mr. President.
Great, thank you very much. And item 34 is the second reading of an ordinance, I believe.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, do we have any, we have no speakers on the queue for item 34. Mr. Parks.
I just need a point of clarification. When I voted on this last time, I thought that the amendments would be going to a joint committee and before the ordinance would be coming back to council. And so I was surprised to see it on the committee, unless I misunderstood.
The amendment was before council.
Pardon?
The amendments, the amended ordinance was in council. And so
I'm saying, but I thought
council was voting on that amended ordinance.
the same one that we had at council last week.
Yes, sir. The ordinance itself, there were a number of motions that were made that requesting some report backs that were referred to the committee, sir.
The reason I brought it up is that I was under the misimpression that the ordinance was going to go to joint committee with the amendments and then we'd be brought back a package. Otherwise, I would not have voted on the ordinance as it stood.
The ordinance was voted on, and there were other amendments that are contemplated in the future that have gone to committee.
Then I misunderstood. Then I'll vote accordingly.
Okay, so we have clarification on that. Mr. Parks, you good? Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you very much. So with that, it'll be a motion that was the same ordinance that was before us last week. Those amendments, again, went to committee, the joint committee. We'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes, 2 noes.
Great. Excellent. Thank you very much. Forthwith. All right. And then transportation, we've got item 35.
I got it. Yes, sir. We have item 35. There's an A or B. They're not compatible. A motion is required. However, if I may, sir, there is an amending motion 35C. That's motion Koretz-Huizar that has been circulated and is now before council for its consideration.
Mr. Koretz, I saw you rise.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This item was discussed at length in Transportation Committee. It was a close vote, but the committee voted 3-2 to disapprove the recommendation of the CAO on this. This contract deals with the combined award of a contract for parking citations and parking collections. And as presented to the Transportation Committee, this is only reviewed as a single contract for both services. The financial advantage of awarding separate contracts for the two tasks was not evaluated or presented. In the Budget Committee, this item was also considered, and a statement was made that this contract could be unbundled for separate consideration and could result in better savings for the city. The Council has not had the opportunity to officially consider this option. Also, there were some problems from my point of view, in Xerox's past service, particularly a question about most favored nation, the most favored nation provision, that they may have charged other government entities less. There's also a lengthy negotiation over several $1 million, which didn't necessarily need to happen. So the amendment that I have circulated to the Council, among other things, would require that we deal with both the two companies that seem to be the only real players in this industry anyway. Both seem equally capable. We give them 90 days to do it so the negotiation doesn't drag on. I'd suggest also that we try to put more teeth in the most favored nation provision, so there'd be penalties for a violation of that. Ultimately, I don't know who would get awarded this contract. I don't really care. I'm certain we'll get a considerably better deal having a competitive arrangement between the two companies that do this all over the country, rather than just going for one, where it has been a very difficult decision. We've heard it several times, and I think it's still a hard call. I think we should send it back for negotiations, and there's no doubt the city will gain to the tune of millions of dollars by negotiating between two capable companies.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. I'd now like to call on Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this issue today is about parking tickets, and it's about contracts, which are two things that are generally unpleasant individually, and you put them together, and we're at sort of an intersection of an unpleasant conversation. This is about the processing and collection of the parking tickets issued in the City of Los Angeles. We have been on a month-to-month contract since March of 2011. In early 2002, I believe February 2002, DOT began a process to issue an RFP to award a contract. This issue has been before a joint committee of Transportation Committee and Budget and Finance at the end of June, so it was before I've been on council, but I've spent some time looking into this. And as I see it, we have a few options. One is we can award this contract to Xerox, as was recommended by the RFP's evaluation committee, as was recommended by the protest committee, as has been recommended by the general manager of DOT, as has been recommended by the CAO, and has been recommended by the Budget and Finance Committee. Or we could deny the contract as the T Committee recommended, although it's unclear what then happens at that point. 3, we could start over, which is not a particularly business-friendly thing to do. It sends us in limbo, keeps us there for quite a while. 4, we could unbundle this contract. There's two elements to it, the collections and the processing. And if we do that, that would actually cost us $25 million over the course of 5 years. Now, there's proposals back and forth about there's ways to make up that $5 million, but it puts the city on the hook for certain behaviors. And one of the things we would likely have to do in order to make sure that Duncan could make up that $5 million is we would have to issue more parking citations, more expensive parking citations. I, for one, do not want to be in the business of saying we need to be issuing more parking citations. Parking citations should be issued because they need to be issued, not because we have a revenue imperative. So while I am chair of T Committee, and I was not on this body when this went to the joint committee meeting, I've spent a lot of time looking into this, and I want to move forward on the Budget and Finance Committee recommendations, and so therefore I will move item 35B, which is the Budget and Finance Committee recommendation, which would award the contract to Xerox. Thank you.
Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much. I'm standing to support Mr. Koretz's motion. I think having gone through 2 or 3 of these issues that deal with this particular contract and seen it award at least twice since I've been here, there's always been a concern about the issue of collection, and there's always been a conflict of interest concern about the people that collect as opposed to the people that collect the funding. And I think it's come a time now to look at separating those two issues, and it's come the time in which we, by Mr. Koretz's motion, it's the first time to actually ask DWP or LADOT to evaluate apples and apples by looking at both firms on the same light, the same plane, and asking them the same questions. I'd just like to ask the staff to come up quickly because I wanted to verify something that was said in committee, and I just asked you to come up. One of the things, Jaime, I just wanted to make sure I remembered this correctly. During our process of several committee meetings, I think the city of San Francisco was used as an example of the higher level of service that Xerox had been giving as compared to other cities in which the other company was providing. Was San Francisco one of the locales?
Robert Andelon, Department of Transportation. San Francisco uses Xerox for processing. They lease the system from them, and city employees perform the services in San Francisco. So it may have been in a different city there.
Okay, what about San Jose?
San Jose, I think, uses Turbo Data, which is a different company.
Okay. Because one of the things, the reason I brought it up is that there was an article yesterday in the Bay Area News that talked about, although they complement the collection rate in San Francisco at 88%, they also comment that there's something in the neighborhood of $132 million that goes uncollected with fines, fees, and tickets. And so the thing is, I think what I'm concerned about, this is similar kind of audits we've had in the city. We realize that some of that is money that we'll never get access to. But I think it's come to the point that we really need to look at a way to separate that issue of the collection so that there's never a sense that we are writing tickets just for the revenue. and there's a conflict of interest, in my judgment, between the two. And every time we've come up with this contract, we've had that debate about whether one company is in the position to do both. I think Mr. Koretz's motion really is blind as to who wins. It's actually asking for the process to be balanced and to give an evaluation for both companies to basically articulate the issue. And the other one I think that came out in the committee, there's been a dispute as to whether there's 25 million or 5 million, although there's discussion as to one company saying they guarantee what was perceived to be a loss in the dollars, but that guarantee was never explored by our reviewers. They, in fact, went to the other company and said, are you willing to give the same guarantee? And I think that's the kind of thing we need to be to have clear, or else we're back into 5 more years of a company that's been here for 20 years. And again, I think we brought up in the meeting the controller's audit that identified at least about 15 concerns, and many of those concerns were issues in which Xerox had not on their own taken the time to look at these issues. So I would hope that we would go with 35C so that we can get these alike side-by-side evaluation and clarify whether Duncan is truly going to satisfy any loss of city revenue versus currently, I think the wording was, they made the offer, but it wasn't made in a form in which the department thought it was appropriate, but yet we asked the other company to do the same thing. So I think we need to clarify that and not go forward with all these loose ends.
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Mr. Bonin for his summary and for his proposal of adoption of the Budget and Finance Committee report. This matter was heard at great length by the two committees sitting jointly. After it was heard at great length at several other stages in the process. Both of these companies participated in the conference to set the terms of the RFP. Both of these companies had the opportunity to participate in the RFP process itself, where the incumbent was unanimously selected as the best choice on price, best choice on overall value, best in 5 of the 6 categories within the RFP. Duncan then pursued an appeal of that. That appeal was unanimously rejected by the appeal committee. The incumbent was selected separately by the general manager, having reviewed all of this. So at every step in this process, the two companies have had the opportunity to be compared on equal footing, have had the opportunity even to shape the debate at the beginning by determining what would go into the RFP in the first place. So I just have to say that in my view, these are the sorts of things that we hire professional staff to evaluate. These are the sorts of things that we look to our staff to consider in depth. And these sorts of contract awards are the worst possible thing to politicize by taking out of the hands of our staff and to debate here in council and to try to decide based on our judgment, supplanting the unanimous judgment of everyone in our staff who has considered this. If we want to reach out to the business community and convince the business community that this is a place that is open for business, as we all say so often, what message does it send when somebody goes through the process, complies with everything that's asked of them, is unanimously selected by our staff, and then the council comes along at the 11th hour and 59th minute and says, well, we think differently. So we're going to reject that work that our staff did. We're going to reject the results of the RFP, and we're just going to start over. Is anyone ever going to be interested in doing business with the City of Los Angeles again if that's the way we're going to do business with a contract like this? A contract like this, by the way, which is one of the top 10 revenue generators in our budget. let's keep that in mind too. So any risk element that we adopt here, any chance that we want to take on maybe getting it a little bit better by going out and doing something differently, like splitting this contract and doing it differently, we are putting at risk one of the top 10 revenue sources in our entire budget. So it seems to me this is the time when we should respect the work of our staff, respect the process, and not politicize this at the last minute. So I would ask for your aye vote on the Budget and Finance Committee report. And I'd also like to ask a question of the city attorney. If we were to change this process now and simply say, well, let's split the contract and offer half to both, is that something that is even within our legal authority to do?
Currently, the way this is worded, I would advise against it. There was an RFP. There was a best and final offer. A selection was made. The proposals were scored. Therefore, the only thing you can do, that you can either vote up and down on the motion that's before you as to whether you want to award the contract to Xerox or not. Not until you've actually voted that contract. If you voted down, then you can begin to consider some of the other options, but you cannot, until you've actually done that, go back and recommend to the department to reopen or do another best and final offer.
So just to make sure that I understand this, at a time when we are already operating on a month-to-month basis with the contractor who is responsible for one of the top 10 revenue sources of our budget, as Mr. Bonin described, at a time that we are already operating on a month-to-month basis, in order to do any of these changes, we would first have to reject the results of the RFP and start entirely from scratch.
Based on the wording of this, if we're going with motion 35C, I would say yes.
Well, but in order to make any of these changes,
well, first, yes, you do have to
we have to reject
the RFP, the proposal that was submitted by the Department of Transportation.
So by rejecting the RFP, we are essentially starting over at a time when we're already operating on a month-to-month basis, and I can't read their minds, but I would kind of question whether the incumbent would want to continue to serve on a month-to-month basis after we have already rejected their contract that has been unanimously approved by our staff throughout the process, which is another element of risk over this very significant source of revenue that members we ought to seriously take into account.
One of the problems that I'm reading with motion number 35C is the fact that you're requesting first to recommend the Transportation Committee report and then having to go back and basically asking for another best and final offer as to the entire contract. That is what the Evaluation Committee has already done, what the entire purpose of the RFP was for. You really can't go back and ask for another best and final offer at this point under the Charter and the Administrative Code. You've already done that, and the only time you could have done that was prior to the evaluation panel voting on that second or that first best and final offer.
Okay. And one final question, if I can, Mr. President. So Mr. Kretz raised some concerns about performance and the most favored nation clause and so on. After a contractor is selected through the RFP process, the department can continue to negotiate the terms of the contract that that contractor will sign, including most favored nation status clause, right?
You can negotiate the terms of the contract as long as it doesn't change the scope of the RFP. And I would have to research that, but on the face of it, it does not sound like it would change the scope of the RFP.
Members, I ask for your aye vote on the Budget and Finance Committee report.
Okay, Mr. Huizar.
Thank you, Mr. President. And, I really don't have much to say about the substance of this issue because we've heard it in Transportation Committee a number of times. It was also heard in Budget and Finance. But I just want to point out that it is our responsibility to review these items and to make changes, recommend changes if we so wish. When it comes to this level, we're recommending something different. It is not politicized. It is our job to look at these. When I became chair of Energy and Environment, I saw a number of contracts that were coming from DWP be there were after-the-fact contracts that the performance had been completed, and we had to insert ourselves to correct that. It's our job to do that. So because we're at this level discussing this, it doesn't mean it's politicized, and it doesn't mean it's last minute. This was heard a number of times in several committees, and those discussions took place, and no one is making changes at the last minute. So I would just want to point that out, that it's our responsibility to review this, to make our recommendations, and on the merits, this was discussed thoroughly in both committees, and it's not a last-minute recommendation. On the merits, I have nothing to say, but just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huizar. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Mr. Huizar pointed out, this has been discussed extensively. It's been a hard call. It's been a hard enough call that one committee went for it, one committee went against it. We're not asking that this be put in the hands of the council. We're asking that this be put back in the hands of the same staff people that made the recommendations, and just give an even shot to both companies. This allows us to look at the guarantees that weren't allowed to be considered. It allows us to compare apples and apples. And frankly, it allows us to cut a better deal because there will be competition. If this is just given to one company, I can guarantee this will not be as good a deal for the city as if they were both competing. And how we got ourselves into a situation where we didn't really set up that competition head-on, apples for apples, I don't know. So I would ask that we support the Transportation Committee's report, where it was heard and very thoroughly considered, and the majority of the committee asked to vote no. And I would ask that we do vote no, and then that we undertake this process, look at both companies and the best that they have to offer, both with the two features together and with the three features separately, which we weren't able to look at. And as Mr. Bonin said, if it costs millions of dollars more to go with Duncan, well, hell, you're not going to go with Duncan. This is a process where the same staff gets to consider it, but I think in a more even-handed way.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Mr. Englander?
No, I'm good. I just got my technical questions answered, so I can call for the question if there's no other speakers.
The problem, not the problem, but I have cards. We have an amended motion before us. So what I'm going to do, we have 16 cards. I'm giving a 16-minute hearing, 1 minute per person, starting with Jean Hale, Rose Braverman, and help me, Ann Munster. Please come to the center aisle. If I don't see two more bodies up there, then I'm going to call the other ones. So let's get up. Go on, Gene.
Good morning. My name is Gene Hale. Many of you know me as the chairman of the Greater LA African American Chamber of Commerce, but today I'm here to support and endorse the unanimous votes for Chief Administrative Officer and the Department of Transportation recommendation to award the parking, processing, and collections contract to Xerox today. Today, I come to you as the CEO and president of GNC Equipment Corporation, one of the nation's largest black-owned businesses and partner of Xerox on this contract. I also sit on the President Export Council with the chairman of Xerox, Ursula Burns. GNC is a veteran-owned business, meaning that I am. We're minority-owned here in Los Angeles, has been in business over 30 years, providing equipment and materials to many companies similar to Xerox. And so today, we're here to ask that the council support this award or recommendation. And on behalf of all the other small businesses in Los Angeles, this might be an opportunity to create some opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you again. Rose, followed by Ann, followed by, I believe, a Mark Talbor. Please come forward. Yes, go right ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Rose Braverman. I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations for PRWT Services. We are a minority business enterprise certified by both the City and County of Los Angeles as well as the California Public Utilities Commissions. We are an integral part of the Xerox team. We have been providing the management and day-to-day operations of lockbox payment processing, data entry, telephone and correspondence customer service, public service centers, and residential parking permits for the city since 1991 and will be privileged to do so in the next contract term. PRWT directly employs 120 Los Angeles-based employees, 87 of which are directly located within Los Angeles, and by that I mean they live in the city of Los Angeles. As a part of our corporate commitment, we also support local and minority and veteran-owned businesses such as our security team, and we take them under subcontract. We are confident, we're really proud to be here, and we hope that you vote in favor of the Xerox contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann, come on up. Followed by Mark. And after Mark is Frank Lopez. Frank Lopez, you're third up. Okay, go right ahead, Ann.
Good morning, everyone. I think you've heard me speak on this topic before. I'm Ann Minster-Newey. I'm the Vice President, Regional Vice President for Xerox in Southern California. Very quickly, I think it's been well stated by I've elevated to Congressman, Councilman Karen, and Councilman Bonin. We've won this through 5 different steps. I think the choice really is very easy and very clear. Is the city willing to take the risk that Duncan will do as well as Xerox and collections? If they do, the city will lose $25 million. If they don't, the city will lose many times more. You should know that we've competed against incumbent Duncan in a competitive environment recently in Oakland and in Berkeley, where both cities state that the collection rates for Duncan were 67% for Oakland and 75% for Berkeley. If those rates are repeated here in the city of Los Angeles, you stand to lose another 20 to 30 million. I understand you've all been subject to intense lobbying from both companies. It's complicated. It's too much to digest. Take it back.
Thank
but
you.
It's a very simple choice.
Ann. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mark, followed by Frank. Tim McCosker.
Good morning.
Go right ahead.
Good morning, Mr. President, fellow members. My name is Mark Talbot. I'm the Group President for Xerox Local Government Services. I just want to say that we're here fully committed to implement the solution we offered. We've been a partner for over 28 years and look to continue that. We're the largest processor of tickets and collections in the United States and have been a great partner with the city. I also want to reiterate the fact this is a very competitive process. I think the Department of Transportation went out of its way to make this an inclusive process where all industry partners could comment prior to an RFP release. The RFP was very detailed, requiring, from our perspective, a 600-page technical response. That led to oral presentations, where, again, we were able to reiterate our value proposition. That led to a BAFO, where, again, we were able to put a good price on our value proposition. And at the end, it came out with a unanimous award. An award to Xerox because of our highest technical and lowest price. I think it's very clear what the decision is here. I hope you take this into consideration when you vote on this. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lopez, followed by Mr. McCosker, followed by Linda Webb.
Hi, my name is Frank Lopez. I'm the Operations Manager for PLDT Services for the LA contract. This contract is actually very, very important for PLDT, for my company, for myself. We have been working on this contract for several years now, doing an outstanding job. Please vote yes. Thank you.
Good morning, Tim McCosker, Mayor Brown, on behalf of Duncan Solutions. Thank you very much for this opportunity. You have 2 recommendations in front of you. One is they're both incomplete. One is to reject and doesn't say what to do next. And the other, in fact, is to say award to Xerox. But what's not stated, what's not clear from this discussion is that it's award to Xerox and then sit down with Xerox and negotiate price concessions without changing the scope, negotiate a guarantee, negotiate a rate of return, and negotiate for earlier, putting tickets into the system earlier for collection. So I'd be for it if it was just an award, but it's not an award. It's an award and then sit down and negotiate after you've given up all of your leverage. We are in support of the Koretz motion because, in fact, what it does is the good public policy. It does not make the mistake of giving up all your leverage and then asking for a negotiation. It does, and I also want to address, because time is very brief here, either the city attorney misunderstood the question or misstated the law. Because if in fact...
Thank you, Tim. That's your time. Thank you. 1 minute. 1 minute. Okay, Linda Webb, LaCharlotte, Oglesby, get in line. and Jesse Swice or something. Okay, next speaker, Tim. Next speaker.
Hi, yes. Good morning. My name is Linda Webb, and I am the Public Service Manager for PRWT. I have been on this project for 20 years, and what we do is we serve the citizens that come in. We serve approximately 350,000 citizens per year, and we do approximately 18,000 of the annual park permits that we do for them. We have a great staff of 30 employees that serve the citizens that come in to the Public Service Center.
Thank you. Next. Identify yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is LaCharliette Oglesby. I currently oversee the quality assurance and customer services with PRWT Services. I've been with the company for 6 years. I'm here and continue to look forward to providing innovative solutions in quality and customer service. I definitely support the Xerox contract. Thank you.
Next, come forward and identify yourself. And after you will be Aldolfo Lauris and George Kiefer. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. My name is Jesse Swice. I'm the project manager for PRWT. We work closely with Xerox to processing the ticket citations. We have a staff of over 125, and 87 of those are LA City employees. We are committed to excellence and assisting Xerox in moving forward and providing excellent service. Thank you.
Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Adolfo Laris. I'm currently working for PWT in the correspondence department. Can't really say much. We provide excellent services. We try to provide the best customer service to our clients, and I hope this contract gets renewed with Xerox. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Come forward.
Members, George Kiefer, counsel for Xerox. There's been a process. It's been a unanimous recommendation at every single level. Not a single person on the staff of your government has supported anything other than keeping the contract together and giving it to Xerox. If you follow the Koretz motion, you essentially throw out all the criteria in the RFP besides price. And there already was a BAFO within the process. This is outside the process. You will have violated your own process and told business that, hey, it doesn't really matter if we go through an 18-month process. Just throw it out. We'll give them another shot. It doesn't make any sense at all. Please support your staff and good government. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rick Rodriguez Jr., Scott Cole, Leon Brooks Sr., please come forward. I called 3 names. I want to see 3 people in the center aisle. Let's go.
Good afternoon. My name is Rick Rodriguez Jr. I'm the Vice President of Quality Assurance for RMI International. RMI International is the current service provider for the city for armed security services. We are part of the contract team with Xerox. We've been the city's security vendor since 2007. We're a minority business enterprise located in Paramount, California. We're also a family-owned business. We're American Society Industrial Security as-is members, 9 Live members, and law enforcement training members. We have over 50 years of combined service, and we're here to support Xerox today for local jobs.
Next, please come forward, sir. Identify yourself.
Hello, Council. My name is Leon Brooks, the CEO for Allied Protection Services. I'm here to urge you strongly to support the DOT and Transportation Commission and Chief Administrative Office recommendation for Xerox to perform parking citation processing and collection services for the City of Los Angeles. We want to keep the jobs here that we have. I have 10 members on that staff, and I want to keep them working. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is it Mr. Cole? Yes. Followed by Ruben Gonzalez and Arnold Sachs. If you please head towards the center aisle. Yes, sir.
Yes, hi. My name is Scott Cole, and I'm the Managing Vice President for GC Services. We employ approximately 9,000 people across the United States, providing credit collection, call center support services. For the past 23 years, we've been the supporting arm to the Los Angeles County Superior Court, where we collect on all of the fines, fees, forfeitures, and penalties that are levied by the court system. We're here in support of the Xerox contract, We've proposed to Xerox that we will manage the collection functions of the hard-to-collect accounts from our Los Angeles County facility, and we urge you to support this contract. Thank you.
Ruben, please come forward. After Ruben is Arnold Sachs. Candido, you owe me. All right. And after that, Candido. Yes, Ruben.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the City Council. My name is Ruben Gonzalez. I'm here on behalf of the LA Area Chamber of Commerce. When you overturn an 18-month process of a fair and objective staff process, you send a bad message to the business community. When you overturn 5 levels of approvals of staff, evaluation, appeal, general manager, CAO, you send a bad message to the business community. What the business community needs is fair process. What business community needs is trust in process. What the business community needs is certainty that when they follow the rules from A to Z, that they're going to get to the end result and not have it taken away at the 11th hour. It is important that we accept the Xerox recommendation. It's important that you back the CAO representation. It's important that you support Councilman Krikorian's recommendation. Please award this contract to Xerox. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Please come forward, followed by Candido Morez.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. And it's good not to have a horse in this race. But it's interesting. The Department of Transportation was a vote for no. The Budget and Finance Committee was a vote for yes. Could there be a problem with the RFP? And what about the council taking the action of a 245, where they take control of the item in council chambers? I'm reminded of the bus bench revenue fiasco with CBS and Clear Channel. They were both submitting great contracts. In addition, just out of curiosity, what's that mean for my gold card? Where do I stand with that? Do I still get a discount on parking tickets? And it's somewhat interesting to listen to the discussion. You think you're in 2 different meetings, and I've come away from some of the city council meetings after reading what's in the newspaper and saying I must have been in a different meeting, but hearing the discussion now, you think you're in 2 different meetings.
Hello, Candido, come forward.
Good morning, Mr. President, council members. Thank you very much, sir. First of all, I would have thought we've learned our lessons. Mr. Koretz, Mr. Krikorian, I respect both of you. But when somebody comes to me, and I've owned 11 different businesses, and I was involved with contracts in 2004 with Mr. Garcetti and Mrs. Gruhl, and the one thing is, there's no problem. You should always look at contracts. You should always go back and look at what's been presented to you. It's not that I don't trust your staff, but the thing is that you are elected to make that final decision and to really take a look at all things that have been presented. So I ask that this be sent back and that we take another second look at it. The sky's not going to fall. I don't have a dog in this fight, but I think the people of this city deserve at least that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, that concludes the...
I put in a card.
You didn't put it on. You did not put it in on 35. I will allow you to speak, and please try to make some sense. Come on.
I make more sense than anybody here because
you speak on the subject, or you don't speak at all.
Speaking on the
parking. No, you're not. Speak on item 35.
Yeah, parking, right? See, we are a democracy and we didn't vote for any parking meters. And you go on and on about parking, how to collect, how to take money, how much money we spend, how much money we lose. Hey, that is the subject. The people are not your slaves. We are the people and we didn't vote for any parking regulations. Why do we have them?
All right, by the skin of your teeth. Okay, Mr. Koretz.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to one thing about lobbying. The overwhelming majority of the lobbying contacts made to me, at least, were made by Xerox. And not just in meetings in City Hall. Literally everywhere I went, I found Xerox people at meetings, at dinners, all kinds of places lobbying me. Some of my closest friends, in fact. So if I could find myself the confidence to vote for the Xerox contract, I would do it. But I'm still not there. I do have a question for the city attorney, because I'm not an attorney and I'm not entirely clear on your objections to this. Why are we able to renegotiate a contract with Xerox after we've approved it, but can't renegotiate a contract with both bidders?
We're not attempting to renegotiate the RFP in this case. Xerox was the selected bidder by the department after the evaluation panel. Under the law, you can go back and then negotiate a contract with Xerox. You can always negotiate a contract with the selected bidder. What you can't do is go back to the bidder that was not selected and open it up repeatedly after the best and final offer has been made and after the evaluation panel has scored, after it is considered the best and final offer. There might have been an opportunity back in November to have opened it up if the general manager had made a finding that it benefited the city to do so, but only the general manager could do that, and prior to the scoring. That didn't occur here. Therefore, you have to vote to either accept or reject the proposal that's before you.
So you're saying what we have in item C, item 35C, could not legally be done, and the only option we have is to reject the contract if we don't believe that Xerox is the clear superior choice.
What you would be doing would be very legally questionable for the reasons that a number of the speakers articulated, that essentially you're asking to renegotiate the RFP, and you cannot do that after the selection has been made and presented to you. Your option is to reject the proposal that's in front of you that the department has presented to you. Then you can send it out again for another RFP, or ask the department to try to go back and separate the two contracts and negotiate with the two.
Jaime?
Thank you. Jaime De La Vega, DOT. I think it's important for me to perhaps clarify and restate some of the description in our staff report about the process. First of all, we did consider every option in both the RFP and the evaluation process. That included bundle services as were recommended, and also unbundling the services. Both Xerox and Duncan were required to bid on both configurations. We made a determination that it was in the best interest of the city to have it combined. It was less expensive, and we have more confidence that Xerox is going to be able to deliver high-quality services. If you haven't memorized the report, just for context, we also did a last best and final offer. Both firms submitted revised prices. Duncan's price was still substantially higher than the Xerox price. Duncan had an opportunity through this process to improve their price. They did not do so. And that is the basis for our recommendation. Xerox is going to clearly provide superior service at less cost.
Okay, now I'm going to allow Mr. Bonin to close, but Mr. Parks, I will allow you to speak on this item.
The city attorney, when you say that if the process for 35C, that would be legal to move forward on it, would it just be a matter of how we vote in what sequence? If you vote on the recommendation of Mr. Bonin to go with the T committee report and it was approved, then everything else would be mute. If you voted on the T committee report and it was rejected, then wouldn't 35C be appropriate to then vote on once you've rejected the T committee report?
The problem is once you've rejected, if you reject the transportation committee actually voted.
I'm sorry, the budget and finance
committee. I would recommend that you specifically reject the contract on the record. You're not just rejecting the budget and finance report. You're simply reject the Xerox proposal that they be awarded the entire contract. Okay. Then you could go back and ask the general manager, since they were required to bid separately, that was one of the proposals, he could then go back and negotiate separate for the separate divisions of the contract. But to go back and ask Xerox and Duncan to give another proposal or another best and final offer regarding the entire contract would be improper at this point.
But that's what I want to get to the point, is that if you reject the Budget and Finance Committee report, and then if that's rejected, there's no requirement to go back for an RFP. That direction to go back to the general manager to then, in the sense of asking for the essence of what's in 35C to be done, to discuss it and with both parties, how is that a violation? If you're saying...
It becomes an issue if you ask them to come back. You can ask them to split the contract and negotiate on both contracts, but you can't ask them to go back to give them another offer regarding the entire contract. You've already done that. We've done that twice, and there was a best and final offer, and there was a selection process. That portion would be very legally questionable to do that.
So you're saying if you ask for the overall issue of them competing or bidding on the entire contract, that would be inappropriate. But if it was narrowly focused to say split it, and they both bid on the split, then you're saying that's appropriate?
Well, because the RFP did, that is an option, because the RFP did ask the proposers, all proposers had the opportunity, any bidder had the opportunity to present a proposal based on a split contract. That you might withstand legal scrutiny on. Right. But if you go back and ask the department to try to negotiate another best and final offer on the entire contract, I guarantee you that a court would likely find that you are in violation of the RFP process.
Okay, Mr. Bonin to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, just to summarize this very briefly, we have essentially in front of us the opportunity to award this contract to Xerox or start over. That's basically what we're left with right now. I just want to remind everybody that the Evaluation Committee voted to award this to Xerox. The Appeals Committee voted to award this to Xerox. The General Manager of the Department of Transportation has reviewed and recommends we award this to Xerox. The CAO's office has reviewed and recommends we award this to Xerox. The Budget and Finance Committee has made the same recommendation. There has been a process that has made this recommendation. We, of course, as policymakers, as the final arbiters of this decision, have an opportunity to weigh in and do something differently. I personally think we should only do that and subvert a process if there are questions about the propriety of that process. There have been no serious allegations about this process. Nobody has alleged corruption or malfeasance. Nobody has contended that the shape of the RFP was improper or incorrect. Both parties helped put it together. To overturn this is to sort of make a mockery of the process. It makes us more business unfriendly. It keeps yet another issue on our plates when we certainly have other business to attend to, and there's other business that's going to be coming before this council. The recommendation before us is a sound one, and I just want to reiterate and ask for your support in joining me and Councilman Krikorian in moving the Budget and Finance Committee report. Item B.
Okay, Mr. Englander.
Call for the question, please.
Okay, the question. Mr. Koretz, the question has been called. Okay, point of order then.
Actually, the question is, since item C was submitted last in the order of B and C, should it not be voted on first? It's a question for City Clerk.
It's my understanding, unless something has changed, that Alan, and you know where I'm going with this, so if I'm wrong, stop me before I go there. It's my understanding that B will be the first item voted on, 35B. Could you expand on that or explain?
Yes, sir. 35C was the first item moved by Councilmember Koretz and subsequently seconded by Councilmember Parks. 35B was moved by Councilmember Bonin and subsequently seconded by Councilmember Krikorian. Accordingly, 35B was the last item introduced and would be voted on first.
Okay, so with that said, we will prepare to vote. Mr. Bonin is Mr. Krikorian. You're good? Just stretching? Just okay. Mr. Bonin is asking for an aye vote. Mr. Koretz is asking for a no vote.
Pardon me,
yes,
sir.
Mr. Clerk.
And again, this is on 35B.
Yes.
The Budget and Finance Committee report.
Okay, let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 2 noes.
All right, so that moves forward forthwith. Okay, we have item 36. Mr. Clerk, we still have an item 36 in the special meeting?
Yes, sir, we do. Item 36.
Do we?
Mr. President, you can move that, or you can bring that before the council without objection if you'd like.
Well, I think we have cards. So do I have to hear the cards?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I want Brenda Medina. I want John Walsh. I'd like to have Mr. Sachs and Juana Cala. If you would please come forward. Identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Brenda Medina, and I'm a community organizer with the Clean Car Wash campaign. Is this on? How many? Okay, cool. So I'm here representing 10,000 car wash workers in Los Angeles. And in this industry, as you may or may not know, is very relevant to the resolution that you have before you, council members. And many of our car wash workers in this in the city of Los Angeles are Latino and undocumented. And we're strongly asking all the council members to support the Trust Act resolution presented by Councilmember Cedillo. And the reason for this is we have a very vivid case with one of our supporters who was on his day off selling fruit on the beach, was stopped by a police officer, and is now in deportation proceedings. He did not commit an aggravated crime, and unfortunately, on his day off, is now looking at being deported. And he has a family, he has 2 kids, and it's one of the reasons why we feel that the resolution before you should be passed and supported by each and every one of you. We want to thank Mr. Cedillo Councilman Cedillo for his leadership in proposing this to the City Council, because I think this will be a very good step in having a strong city like the City of Los Angeles support this resolution. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Walsh, are you next?
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential. New post every day. Okay, this is going to pass 14-1, 15-0. This is simple, what they're doing here. They're backing, the city is backing the federal government. In other words, the Democrats in Congress on the immigration bill. 100%. That's perfectly fine. I think these issues, now some people say you shouldn't get involved in national issues. Yes, you should. And when you are involved in this issue of immigration, you should. And that's why I'm asking every one of you to put on the agenda for Friday the issue of bombing Syria. Why don't you have a position on bombing Syria? The mayor does. I am asking for that. And if you don't, that means...
He is not talking about this item.
Jump back to this subject, John.
I just want to finish by saying, you see, they are afraid of going against the mayor and saying they're against the Syrian bombing.
Stay on the subject, John. Okay, thank you. Okay, Arnold, followed by Juana Cala. Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. The first speaker mentioned somebody who was stopped by immigration, and I think that refers to your other item on your agenda. But I too, actually, since you have a state legislative program and you're discussing jointly to urge the Congress and the President of the United States to take a comprehensive and workable approach to improving the nation's immigration system, that you do take a stance on the use of nerve gas in Syria. The President's taking a stand on that. The Congress is taking a stand on that. You should take a stand. You always recommend
this item. Get on the subject, Arnold, please.
You recommend, as the second largest city in the United States, and the influence of the city of Los Angeles and its immigration and its diverse cultures and all the people that live here from all the different communities, you ought to take a stand.
Okay, Mr. Akala.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that Syrian thing since.
No, stay on this item. This item has nothing to do with Syria.
Right. Occupy LA was the same thing, but let's consider consideration of the resolutions that you. Oh yeah, immigration. That's one of my biggest issues. Why do we even have borders to begin with? Are we stupid? We're bombing each other because you're a Syrian, you're a...
On the subject. No, it's not. It's just on the subject.
Look, we should not divide each other as human beings. All this immigration BS is, people should be able to go from one end of the world to the other without any, hey, who are you? What are you doing here? So immigration reform is very much needed. I became a citizen thanks to the amnesty that was passed by whoever was passed a while back. And thanks to that, I'm able to come here and tell you that you're doing business the wrong way, very much the wrong way. You're always penalizing people when the people are the ones providing for everything. Let's see how we can give them a bigger ticket on the parking. Let's see how we can take more money from them. So immigration is a huge issue because we're not treating each other as human beings thanks to the stupid fact that we are dividing each other by race, creed, color, nationality. It's all bullshit. And I'm glad we're able to say bullshit here now.
No, you better stay on the subject. That has nothing to do with the subject. Your time is up. All right. And I'm sure, Mr. Akala, all of the children that listen to this believe that you're a stand-up man for using that kind of language. Disrupt. Okay, so let's vote on that. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, that's passed. Mr. Clerk, I believe we have finished all of the business in our special meeting.
Yes, sir. Would you like to adjourn the special and return
I'd like
to the regular?
to adjourn this and return to the regular forthwith per Mr. Cedillo on this item. Okay, so we've adjourned. We're going to return to the regular meeting. And that leaves us with, can we go to, okay, I'm going to go to general public comment for a while. Candido, I'm going to ask you to come up first. Arnold and John. We'll go to the, like I said, general public comment. So we have Candido, Arnold, and John Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council members, Candido Maris, proud resident of the 12th District, where I'm honored to have Mr. Mitch Englander as my representative. Also, Mr. Wesson, I want to thank you for naming me as a constituent of the city of Los Angeles. From the east side to the west side, from San Pedro to Chatsworth, we're all one city and one people. With me today is Mr. Jim Piper. We're here today to thank Mr. Garcetti and you, Mr. Wesson, and the City Council, and even DWP for the compromises that were made in the DWP contract. In 2005 or 2006, when I was here, and I was in favor of the DWP contract back then, but DWP had all the power, and I've never seen a council and a mayor collapse the way we did in 2005 or 2006, whenever the contract was done. So thank you for bringing back balance of power in this room here. The great President Abraham Lincoln and Mr. Benito Juarez both agreed that a balance of power was essential to the foundation of democracy. So again, I want to thank you for that. And Ms. Martinez, I want to thank you for the email. I don't know if it was a mistake, but I received an email inviting us to attend your event on Saturday. And again, to quote the great Mr. Lincoln, he said, do I not crush my enemies when I make him my friend? So we look forward to working with you. And again, thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Walsh, are you next or Mr. Sachs? Mr. Sachs, followed by John Walsh.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. It's actually very good I saved some of these motions. I believe a couple of weeks ago you had an item on your agenda regarding the dissolution of a sale of property in, I believe, in the 8th District, where on Western Avenue for $2 million that the city was going to return the funds to the CRA. Because back in June 28, 2013, Councilman Parks put a motion in and was seconded by Jan Perry regarding the former CRA, regarding 4 market conversion projects. Additional several new market conversion projects have been initiated. However, due to its dissolution, CRA-LA is unable to cover the costs of plan check and permit fees, and a new source of revenue needs to be identified. Well, if you're decommissioning a sale that's going to involve $2 million, there's a new source of revenue right there. Why should you look outside? And I'm somewhat concerned that the council people in that district and the person who seconded it wouldn't be aware of the sale that would bring about $2 million excess dollars for CRA to use. This would help economically in the district, so why not use that $2 million before you go looking for some other source of funds? That being said, another thing that's really interesting lately is that we have a number of new councilmen that have been in state legislation. And what's interesting about that is some of these new councilmen were both in the Assembly and or maybe even the Senate when Assembly Bill number 706 from 2011 or Senate Bill 659 were both voted on. And they both refer to the Los Angeles, the Metro
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Okay, Mr. Walsh, followed by, is there a Nadine Diaz? Would you please come up right behind him? Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. These general negative comments I'm making to the City Council, I exempt all the new members from it. You get a 6-month grace period. So far, you're doing a good job. These meetings are running 45 minutes to an hour short because we no longer have that magpie blabbermouth abusing himself, Bill Rosendahl, talking to hear the sound of his own voice. I love the sound of my own voice, too, but it isn't the greatest love in my life, okay? I'd like to point out, nerve gas, I'm asking you on Friday to do exactly what the mayor of the city of Los Angeles put it up here. We want to know from every one of you whether you're in favor of bombing Syria or whether you're against bombing Syria. And we'd like to point out, again, a tourist warning goes out to the entire world. The woman who was killed from Italy, her parents and her husband are suing this city, and I understand they're already going to talking about settling for $20 million. Come to Los Angeles, visit Hollywood, end up dead. End up with your blood on the street. Stay away from Hollywood. You can't stay near the transit zones. You notice where the sheriffs are patrolling by the MTA entrances, there is no crime. If you want to commit a crime, go where the LAPD. If you're a gangster, tell the LAPD what your gang affiliation is. You will not be arrested. Try that with the sheriffs, and the sheriffs will arrest you. Anybody who comes to Hollywood is committing suicide. Anybody who comes to Venice Boulevard. I moved here in 1966. 1966, I lived in Westwood. I've been here for every mayor, including Mayor Sam. The city is out of control, and as bad as our last mayor was, the city was in control. The city is out of control under Garcetti. HollywoodHighlands.org for the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Ms. Diaz, please come forward, and then we're going to move to item 29.
Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Nadine Diaz, and I'm here to represent the University of Southern California Memory and Aging Center. We have been in the community at the Health Science Campus since 1984. We are state and federally funded, and we provide state-of-the-art memory evaluations, diagnosis, and treatment for those who are suffering with memory loss, Alzheimer's disease, and dementia. It's very imperative for me to thank Councilman Cedillo. As senator, he supported our program because we reached out to his constituents, as well as when he was in the Assembly and now as council member. Same with former Senator Price. We appreciate your advocacy and your concern about the seniors who are living longer. We need to help them. They are the baby boomers. I would like to provide some statistics very briefly. Every 70 seconds, someone is getting Alzheimer's disease in this country. 1 in 3 seniors dies from Alzheimer's disease or dementia. More than 5 million Americans are living with this disease. In 2013, Alzheimer's disease will cost the nation $203 billion. There is expected to be an increase to $1.2 trillion by 2050. At the state level, we have 10 centers throughout California, different universities that are conducting research. At the federal level, approximately 33 universities. We implore you to have your constituents contact USC Memory and Aging Center to get involved in research, clinical trials, and to fight this disease. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to go back and take up item 25, and I'd like to call on Gilbert Cedillo. And sorry for the delay, Gilbert.
Mr. President, thank you. There are members of the community who have been here since early this morning, and I think it's important that we take a minute to address their concerns as Angelenos. There is a specter of deportation that rises above all these families, members of our community. The failings of Congress, the failings of the Congress to move and vote on immigration reform, the failures of the President to sign and pass immigration reform, means that in this city that there are tens of thousands of families who fear deportation. They fear deportation if they're stopped at a simple checkpoint. They fear deportation if their vehicles are stopped. They fear deportation, as we heard the example, if they're selling fruit for a living and get stopped for doing so without a license. There is this specter that should not exist over the men and women of this community, and it's a specter that has a very serious consequence, because there are instances where U.S.-born children have to accompany their parents who are deported. And that means we are, in fact, a de facto engagement of deportation of U.S. citizens. We are doing what we did in the 30s. We are kicking out people who were born here simply because of the failures of Congress and the failures of leadership at the White House. And so I ask for us to acknowledge that, to recognize our conditions and circumstances, realize that immigrants are vital to the future of this city, that they are central to our economic existence, and that we must have a city in which they feel confident and comfortable in engaging our great police force, This is why Special Order 7 and Special Order 40 are so critical, and it's a logical conclusion that building upon Special Order 7 and Special Order 40, that we would support the Trust Act. My colleague, Tom Amiano, has gone to great lengths to work and fashion a bill that the governor can sign. That process takes time, and I know that, having worked 15 years on a driver's license proposal and 8 years on the California DREAM Act, that you have to take time to make sure that you get it right. And so he is trying to move a bill that is important, that is just, but not necessarily popular. And so I ask this council, the council of the most important city in this state, perhaps the most important city in the nation, the future of this country, that we take a position that's very sound and very clear and support the Trust Act and say that this specter of deportation should not exist on the citizens and residents of the people of this great city of Los Angeles. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. And I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all of you for coming out in support of this issue. But what I want to say is that I'm at 11 members. In a matter of moments, I will lose a quorum. So, Mr. Cedillo, I'm going to call on the first 3 people, and I hope to then vote on this and pass this while we still have enough members present. I would hate to continue this until Friday. So if I could have Jorge Resendez, Mariano Hernandez, Antonio, who's with Chirla, come forward. Yes, sir. Identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Jorge Resendez, and I am from the Northeast San Fernando Valley. I represent the California Immigrant Youth Justice Alliance, and I also represent the San Fernando Valley Dream Team. And I am here to ask for the support for this resolution, which will greatly benefit our community. I've lived in the San Fernando Valley for all my life, and I've seen the fear in my community. I've seen the fear of my parents when they drive down the street, because at any moment they could be stopped and arrested and possibly be in contact with ICE. And I want this for California. I want California to take leadership in immigration and show the rest of the nation that we are not going to stand for deportations, that we are going to protect our community, which is very vital to the state. We make the state stronger. We want the city to come out and support and pass this resolution. There are some facts that show that the immigrant community is less likely to report crimes, even if they're victims of crimes, even if they're the ones who are being attacked or whatever crime they're a victim of. They're less likely to report this, and this makes our city and our whole state less safe. This is why we urge the city to support and ask the governor to sign it as it is, without any amendments. Thank you. That's it.
No, thank you. So, Mr. Hernandez?
Muy buenas tardes.
Good
Mi nombre es
afternoon.
Mariano Hernández.
My name is Mariano Hernandez.
Soy jornalero.
I'm a field worker,
Estoy en representación de mis compañeros
and I'm
jornaleros
here representing the
para
rest of my
decirles de que en
co-workers
verdad nosotros no podemos hacer un reporte a la policía
to let you know that we don't feel comfortable making a report to the police because we're afraid that we may be deported and separated from our families.
Ya la comunidad perdió ¿cómo le quiere? Ya perdió el respeto, o sea, el valor de hacer un reporte, porque
Now our
tiene
community
temor a la
members
policía, se siente
fear the
insegura.
police,
Ya no hay esa seguridad
and
que
we are
debería
not
haber
making
en
any
la población
reports. on crimes. We don't feel safe to go to the police. We're afraid, we don't file a report, and we don't feel comfortable on the streets. We are not able to look for work because we're afraid to face the police who may stop us, ask us for documents, and be deported. Our community is suffering greatly in this aspect. We are no longer looking for for work because we fear going out on the streets and not being able to come back. So we please ask you to do something about this issue so that we can come together with the police and with the community. We don't want the families to be separated. That's what's taking place right now. The community doesn't trust the authorities. The community feels unsafe. As soon as they see a police officer, they fear. So we ask you to please do something about the situation so that we can continue creating trust between the community members and the police. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. And for those of you in the audience that could not see, we were not having a voice from above. Our translator is to my right behind one of the pillars, so it's difficult to see her. Anyway, with that said, sir, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Antonio Bernabé. I'm the organizer for CHIRLA, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles. And here we are in strong support of the resolution because it is needed. We need to reform we need to set a line. You know, the Trust Act is an important piece of legislation that will reform California's participation in the fundamental and flawed Secure Communities or ESCOM deportation program. This bill will advance the public safety by rebuilding the trust that ESCOM has undermined between immigrant communities and the police. The Trust Act will also cease the unfair burden which the program has saddled upon local government. Please vote yes on this resolution. Thank you very much.
And again, thank you all for coming down. In fact, I forgot to inform you, members, there's no council this Friday. So, Mr. Cedillo, this would have had to have been delayed almost a week. So, there are no speakers on the queue. Members, let us prepare to vote on it. Yes, Mr. Price.
May I speak? May I speak? Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just stand in support of this resolution. We know that immigration reform is not just a national issue, it is a local issue. And in fact, it impacts the quality of life for all of us. And we have to come up with some kind of a way of legalizing the status of undocumented immigrants currently living and working here in the United States. Certainly, we need to make comprehensive and workable reform a priority. I think this resolution goes a long way towards expressing that concern from the country's most progressive city, and I'm pleased to stand with neighbors and friends in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Madam Clerk, let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
So that passed. Okay, again, thank you all for coming down. And forthwith on that item, Mr. Cedillo. Okay. All right, so now we want to go to item 29. Mr. Parks, I think that was held special by you. In fact, it was.
Thank you very much. I'd ask that we approve a reward motion to assist the detectives that are handling a case that occurred on July 2nd, 2013 at 12:25 p.m. Victim Elroy Skank and a passenger Chanel Parker were driving on the freeway, and an unknown suspect in a dark-colored vehicle fired multiple rounds towards them, and upon being transported to a local hospital, Mr. Skank passed away. The police feel as though there's been run out of leads. They're looking forward to identify the individuals responsible for this homicide, and they hope that witnesses will come forward in assisting them. And we ask for a $50,000 reward, and anyone having information contact Detective Davila at Criminal Gang Homicides at 213-485-1383. Thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Parks. Okay, members, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, that item passes. So I think that will bring us back, Mr. Clerk, to general public comment.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. President, in the meantime, there's been requests from member to send items 10, 17, and 33 forthwith.
Okay, without objection. Dr. Tom Williams, Sid, and we have Bobby Cooper. Please come forward. And if we don't have Bobby Cooper, Mr. Henry, I'll get to you. I've got your card. Yes, Doc?
Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council, also a member of Concerned Citizens for a Safe Community. We're supporting a ban on fracking within Los Angeles, or a moratorium. Can it be done safely? I've been in the oil and gas industry since I was about 14, before child labor laws. And it can be done safely, but is it being done safely? Does anyone know how many wells they have in their district that are operating, that have been abandoned, that have been anything within your district? There's a lot of them around. Virtually everybody along Wilshire Corridor has gas and oil. The Civic Center Station, Red Line Phase 1, had too high of gas levels in it. Was it due to fracking? We don't know, because we don't even know where the wells are. Dogger does, the oil and gas industry does, and a lot of other people do, but not even their neighbors. 23rd Street, they have gas and oil wells. Do they know what's going on? No. No one tells them. Down on Jefferson, another one. Oh, Pico and Genesee. There's a huge building there. Look at it. That's an oil and gas field. So what are they doing? We don't know. Because they get a permit in 10 days to do anything they want. Use any hydrofluoric acid, use any fracking fluids in 10 days. Default approval if there's no objection. So we need to have some information. We need to have some control measures, because these people are going to be causing a problem. They did at the Ross store, where I spent 3 days.
Thank you, Doctor. Okay, Sid, followed by Mr. Henry. Henry Marine, rather. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, council members. As of yesterday, I've got communications with Mr. Pilavjian, which is the representative of the LA United Investment Company, which is ready to invest over $100,000 for the improvement of the sidewalks in the St. Vincent Court. Unfortunately, there was a communication between Sarah Hernandez and him saying that, unfortunately, they cannot bring Deli Johnny's to the table. I will commend the effort of Huizar's office trying hard to bring the Deli Johnny's to the table, but apparently as of this week or last weekend, the communication was that they don't want to talk. Well, they don't want to talk, it's fine. But the other issue is this, that I had also an opportunity to talk to Mrs. McLean, which I just found out in my card index, that she is the lead on the downtown revitalization and the director of that particular project in the area. Unfortunately, in my communications with her yesterday, I think she was a little bit insensitive, and I'd like the council to know about that. If someone is involved heavily in this type of a redevelopment area, she should know that the alley is not safe. In her mind, she said, and I quote, "Things are back to normal." Things are not back to normal. Things are back to normal because I am carrying a heavy-handed peacekeeping situation in that alley, and I'm tired of it. I don't want to come here every day to try to remind you all what's transpiring. Because if we let that alley disintegrate, there'll be chaos again. People are not putting their chairs and tables on the street. They're keeping it on the side. Doesn't mean it's safe, because the ADA rules are being broken every day. We need Huizar's office to give us a direction, because we will propose a construction application soon, but we need clearance from there. Are they aboard without the Deli Johnnies or not?
Thank you. Okay, if we could have Mr. Marine, please come forward, followed by Wanakala. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is for the benefit of the new people on this council, because I've said all this before. PI stands for Property Interest Employment. Ongoing temp MOUs show the money others use for my benefit and what percent management or union took for me to roll over. Under state and federal law, temporary government positions are 999 hours or less in a period of 1 year. Paragraph 8 of MOU 35 shows no one shall remain employed under this agreement past 1 year. Paragraph 8 of HACLA MOU shows HACLA shall notify the building trades should anyone be provided a permanent position. From 1976 through 77, I served as a HACLA casual, permanent, and probationary positions, and resigned in 1977 from the permanent construction position and processed out on a P2 form. The 1984 revision of HACLA Chapter 108 rules, this is it right here, it shows all different types of temporary positions. And we noted at the time the limit is 999 hours, or AKA less than 6 months. Now, when Ed Vincent read the HACLA and COLA MOUs, he immediately saw the black flags: at-will employment, no grievance in regard to pay and benefits and conditions. My records show the tax-sheltered portion of the money from pay of HACLA and COLA craftsmen have not been actually accounted for anybody or by anybody in the past 23 years. Likewise, we know Martin Ludlow got busted for using the money of people, public employees at will, to honorably serve the people in CD of 10. Under Murphy's Law, what can happen will go wrong. All right, and bottom line, when is this council going to start governing?
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Akala. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, just another homeless clown coming here to discuss freedom with people that are not free at all. You're all dressed like penguins. Where is the freedom? You gotta wear a tie, you gotta wear a coat. Where is the freedom? Why can't you dress like a grandma if you wanted to? Why can't you wear anything you want to this city council, to Washington, D.C., to, oh, by the way, you should bomb Syria, but do not bomb the people. Bomb the guy that's bombing the people. You know what I mean? Bomb the palace. Get rid of those idiots. Get rid of those idiots that are penalizing their own people. You are the idiots penalizing your people here with parking tickets, with violations for everything, making ordinances that take everybody's livelihood away. You are making slaves of everybody. And you're not providing housing. You're not providing the basic necessities with the money that people give you to provide those things. All you're doing is sitting here discussing how to take more money from people so you can run your stupid city. And when I say one little bit of bad language, you get way overprotective when you're giving out alcohol licenses so people go around killing other people with their cars. Hit and runs. So tell me where the smartness is, other in the fact that you know how to take everybody's money. That is your way of being smart, but it's totally stupid.
Thank you. Your time is up. All right, that concludes general public comment. Announcements. Mr. Cedillo.
Yes, Mr. President, I would like to announce an early notice for a remembrance for 9/11 that will take place this Wednesday, September 11th, in my district, the Fred Hodgkin Memorial Training Center here at 1700 Stadium Way. With the Los Angeles Fire Department, we should never forget the courage and valor of those first responders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Other announcements. If everybody in this council could please rise for adjourning motions. Please rise, everybody rise for adjourning motions. I'm looking to my left. Any motions on Mr. Fuente's side? Now I'm looking to Mr. Parks. Do you have one?
Yes.
Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much. I'd ask that we adjourn in memory of Robert E. Chase, who passed away on Saturday, August 24th, 2013. Robert, also known as Bob, was a former assistant CAO, longtime executive officer. He joined the city in 1957 in the Department of Airports. He moved to the office of the CAO in 1958. Early in his career, he served as a police analyst and also was involved in the construction of the Central Receiving Hospital. He promoted quickly in the CAO's office and was appointed executive officer in 1971 and held that post until his retirement in 1998 after 41 years with the city. He also served briefly as the interim CAO in 1979 following the retirement of C. Irwin Piper. He helped lead the CAO through the dark days following Proposition 13 and during the recession of the early 90s. He was a tremendous resource, having extensive knowledge and history of the city, its projects, and its budget. Bob encouraged teamwork, and his engaging manner brought out the best of each member of the CAO staff. He was a highly respected member of the city family. He's a graduate of UCLA and an avid Bruin fan. Bob enjoyed trading good-natured barbs with the staff and others from that other school. He honored his alma mater by selecting the blue and gold colored scheme for the LA Administrative Code. Some in City Hall staff will remember the color scheme in older versions of the code book was on the old municipal code was cardinal and gold. Bob will be remembered for his leadership, grace, style, and the sly sense of humor. He's survived by his wife, Sally, who he married in 1982, and blended two families, his children, John, Karen, and her children, John and Tori, and a host of family members. Funeral services are pending.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Any other adjourning motions? Okay, Mr. Clerk, I neglected to indicate that all of our motions are posted and referred. With that said, this council meeting is adjourned. We do not have council again until Tuesday of next week.